Good morning, everyone. We're just going to check and make sure that we can be heard in the Zoom webinar.
I'm hearing you well, Sam. Thank you very much.
Great. Okay, so Chair Crandall, we should be ready to start at 9 o'clock.
Before you do that.
Good morning and welcome to the July 26th Board of Supervisors meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Yeah, there you go. And then we will start customary with our moment of silence. Would there happen to be any moments of silence? I have one. Do I have any others? All right, go ahead.
Unfortunately, it's been a bit of a difficult week for the community in the city of Clear Lake. And I kind of want to use this moment to speak on the greater topic. Unfortunately, last week on July 20th, there was a incident between a vehicle and a pedestrian, and we lost James Torrey Jr., who was 43 years old. Many people in the community knew him. He worked over in Walmart. I know I dealt with him multiple times when working on community participation stuff. And then unfortunately yesterday, another incident occurred of another vehicle versus pedestrian, and we lost Adam Husky, who was 32 years old. Unfortunately, this is not a isolated incident. I know we had a recent young person that passed away over in Clear Lake Oaks, and I know that there was also a very hot topic court case of a drunk driver and somebody who was killed here also, I believe towards the Middletown area, if I remember correctly. But these are not isolated incidents. This happens again and again and again, and I know that we have groups that are working on safety on our roads, but to me it's the same basic concept as dealing with fires. You got to do your part. You have to slow down. You have to be aware of what's going on. To deal with fires, we need every property owner to deal with defensive space and not just expect the community to do it for you. We, as drivers, seem to have lost the ability to follow the rules. And unfortunately, people's lives are being lost because we are not following the rules and we are driving erratically or we are driving under the influence. So I just, please, make a change and don't put that gas pedal to the metal. Be aware of what's in your surrounding area, because we have people in our community, we have families and friends that are hurting right now. So I'd like to have this moment of silence for both Adam Husky and James Torrey and ask everybody to please slow down.
Vice Chair Scott, could you lead us in the pledge?
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. And thank you for the moment of silence and discussing that topic as well. Next on our agenda is item 4, consideration of extra items not appearing on the posted agenda. Would there be any to consider? All right. Item 5, approval of the consent agenda. These items on the consent agenda are considered non-controversial. However, if there is a request to take one off the agenda to pull from the agenda to discuss further, then we will do so. So is there any items off of the consent agenda that need to be pulled?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to pull item 5.3 for further discussion.
5.3. Okay. And let's see, I'm just going to write that down real fast. 5.3. All right, I'll open it to the public. Is there anybody in the chambers that would like to pull a consent agenda item? And I don't see anybody, so I'll go online. I see there's 2 online. Charles Bono.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I would like to draw attention to the Verizon construction of a tower in downtown Middletown.
Sir, are you wanting to pull something from the consent agenda item, or are you looking to speak to public input?
I'm looking to speak to public input.
Okay. So we're not covering that just yet, but we will do public input in the near future. So once we come to that agenda item, right now we are on consent agenda, so we still need to finish that. So right now, so far, we have 5.3 pulled. Julia, are you looking to conduct public input as well, or pull something from the consent agenda?
Yes, sir, public input.
Okay, so we'll bring this back to the board for action on the consent agenda on item 5.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve items 5.1 through 5.2 and 5.4 through 5.12.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. All right, next, we will come back to item 5.3 at a later time. Next on the agenda is our 905, Lake County Animal Care and Control Pet of the Week. And with that, we have the Animal Control Director coming forward with staff. And it looks like cats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, tell us what you have today.
Yeah.
This one's going to get me for a second.
All right, so I'm Jonathan Armis with Lake County Animal Care and Control. We brought 4 cats for you guys to look at today. We actually are pretty full on cats right now. We have a bunch of them. So if you're interested in adopting any cats or dogs, please go to our shelter at 4949 Hellbush Drive or give us a call at 263-0278. We are also excited to announce that we are doing shot clinics again on Wednesdays, typically, from 9 to 10. So low-cost vaccination clinics. You get rabies vaccinations, your core vaccines. And we are also doing limited community cat surgeries again. We only have a vet 1 day a week, but we're fitting some surgeries in that day a week as well on top of our adoption surgeries. So yeah, if you want to schedule an appointment for a community cat surgery, give us a call, 263-0278. We'll get you on a list, and then when we schedule, we'll call that individual back. In vaccine clinics, no schedule necessary, no appointment, I'm sorry. Just come on into the shelter between 9 and 10 on Wednesdays.
Thank you, JT.
Yep, thank you.
All right.
I think the big question is, do they catch mice? Because not all cats do.
I want to say these ones probably.
We do have some that would be a good barn cat, and if anyone's interested in barn cats, we do them. They're a $1 adoption. They would get spayed, neutered, vaccinated, everything, ear tipped. So it's a really good deal if someone's looking for a barn cat.
Thank you.
Thank you, JT.
This one's stuck to me.
You want to go?
All right. Thank you for that presentation and bringing the cats in. So we'll move on to our 906, which is public input. At this time, we will encourage anyone that wants to discuss something that's not currently on the agenda. If you're in the chambers, please come up to the microphone and speak for 3 minutes and state your name for the record. And then I'll come to the Zoom after we're finished with the chamber inputs. So once you state your name, we'll start your 3 minutes.
It's okay if I take my mask down.
Yeah, I think it's fine, yeah.
It's hard to talk with that thing in my mouth. My name is Ray Oliva. I live up at Riviera West. I'm here for 3 quick things. I'll try to be as quick as I can. One is that I don't know whether you're aware of it or not, but the monarch butterfly is going to be extinct unless we do something about it now. I'm asking the board to please consider putting together a program for the residents to inform the residents about what's going on so that they can put in milkweed. They're starving to death. They're starving to death here. They're starving to death across the world. They've got a red tag on them right now, which means that they're next up to go on the extinct list. I don't want to see that happen. This is the first year that we haven't had any monarchs at all. That's the first thing that I wanted to mention to you, and I hope that you'll follow through with it because they're pollinators, and we need the pollinators. We spray way too much, which goes through the air and kills all of the good insects beside the bad insects. And I don't know what the answer to that is, but boy, it's got to stop somehow or another. The second thing I wanted to cover as quickly as I can, I'm back to the water again. So far, since I've been addressing the board, I haven't seen any of the committees organized to where they have a central point. I haven't seen any organization take place that really controls the expenses because the expenses are relatively high and we don't have a huge tax base and we could use the income. I haven't seen anybody talking about the lake in terms of disaster. It's not healthy. Everybody knows it. It's not healthy. And the only way we're going to make it healthy is to do some of the things that we promised to do once before. And that was to flood it. That was to take care of the fields down at the, what is it, the north end? Yeah, the north end. And none of that's being done. And it was committed to, and I believe that the funds were made available to the county and they weren't spent, not one dime, not one. And I don't know why. The third thing that I would like to talk about very briefly is the fire. As you know, up in Riviera West, we live in a very highly contagious, very high danger spot. It's one of the few spots that hasn't caught fire. As you can see, when you look around on the television, etc., the fires are getting worse. We asked, I don't know, at the election, I guess, we asked that the board please do us a favor. One favor is all we asked for. And that was to forward a letter to CAL FIRE, because CAL FIRE is responsible for our area. And the problem is, it's in their regulations.
Sir,
no trees fallen are to be left on the property. Never got a response back. The only thing that the county said to me was, what do I do? It's the only thing.
All right, sir, if you can wrap up, you're past your 3 minutes.
I will wrap it up right now. I don't know who's going to be legally responsible because we've asked that the logs be removed. If they're not removed and it catches fire and there's big damage, I'd like to know if the Board of Supervisors entertains the thought of being responsible for it, because legally you've been notified that it's a dangerous thing and nobody's doing anything about it. The last,
Sir, you're way past,
okay,
and
I know.
thank you.
Well, 3 minutes is up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Come on up.
Cheryl Carr, Upper Lake. In all fairness, I wanted to say that I just contacted the chairman here the end of last week, and he hasn't had time to respond. I didn't give him much notice. I'm here today for 2 reasons. I need to be allowed entry to my folks' old property, now belonging to my young niece. It was red tagged some months ago when I was unable to immediately help. The project entails removing and disposing of 5 travel trailers, and I'm ready to get started. The problem is that the property owner, who came out of Mendocino County 2 years ago, owns a small piece of the entry driveway. He erected a chain that is never unlocked. The day he erected it, he shot a full clip from an automatic weapon, and then he went to work. Many times he has approached vehicles using this legal access, name-calling and threatening those he'd never met before. He has both law enforcement and code enforcement connections in Mendocino County. I would normally, like you're supposed to do, hacksaw the chain or lock to enter, but this is a safety issue. Did I ask Lake County law enforcement to help? Yes. Did I ask code enforcement to help? Yes. Did we ask, on the next subject I'm talking about, we went to animal control. I also came here to ask the community that if they are experiencing any similar abuse of landlocking, that they write me. I'm upset about the next subject. Cheryl Carr, General Delivery, Upper Lake, and we can take it to Sacramento. The second thing I won't let go of happened on 4/20. Living next door with a perfect view, I heard hysterical screams. I wish I'd brought a tissue. And I hollered down, "Do you need help?" And yes. I heard a yes, "He shot our dogs," was returned, and I called 911. It turns out that every time my niece's place has a gate between this front character and them, they found it missing and laying on his side. He just kept him. On the 5th time, as a new one was being installed, he popped up behind a nearby bush, heavily armed, and said, "Sick 'em," to his 2 dogs. As they got near them, their two dogs at their ankles, they tossed rocks to fend off an attack. One hit a dog's foot, and within seconds, thank you, Anita, and within seconds, their 2 dogs lay dead. It's easier, thanks. Thanks. I'm glad the timer's not going. It's real nice. The 2 dogs lay dead. Pulling a handgun from his waist, he aimed towards the people, and they each heard a bullet whiz past their heads.
She has the timer up here, but I'll let you finish.
Oh, okay.
If you can finish and wrap it up.
He then walked over and he put a second bullet in one dog. Pictures were taken and they raced up to me, so visibly shaken. I saw the bloody dog's pictures and one of the shooter, the gun in his hand. Shortly, officers first stopped at the perpetrators and then came to us. While I stayed inside, just this one last page. While I stayed inside my place, I heard everything. The 2 were immediately arrested for assault with a deadly weapon, the rocks, and they were held on $25,000 bail. At that point, I called 911 to get a civil standby to retrieve the carcasses. They never came, and the neighbor disappeared the evidence. 2 days later, when released, the evidence of the pictures and several times of this neighbor's blatant cocky harassment was all erased from the confiscated phones. I've been on local radio about this, that the district attorney sits on the board of, so my time is limited. And if the DJ wished to keep their show, I had to be short. This Dukes of Hazzard style of prosecuting the victim while enabling the aggressor needs to be exposed, and that's why I came today. Again, if anyone in the county or counties surrounding I'd be interested in reaching out to are having similar problems like this, please write to Cheryl Carr, General Delivery, Upper Lake. I thank you for your time, and I didn't mean to cry.
It's okay.
And Eddie, I have these files I've been talking about giving to you.
I'll take them. Yeah, she'll give them to me,
and I'll include this if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else in the chambers that has public input? Not hearing any, I will open it up to the Zoom room. Julia Bono.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to give some background, first of all. In December 2018, a lawyer representing Verizon Wireless publicly admitted before the Board of Supervisors in Lake County that Verizon intends to upgrade its 4G towers to 5G as part of its plan for Lake County. In 2019, an online petition was started opposing the installation of wireless transmitters at a location in downtown Middletown that now has almost 1,500 signatures. The signatories to this petition represent nearly the entire population of our small town, who stand together in firm opposition to this installation that is too close to schools, churches, businesses, and residences. It has recently come to my attention from several sources and from an inspection of the same site that I did personally a few days ago that Verizon has now started construction at this downtown site after its proposal to do so was soundly rejected by the Lake County Planning Commission in 2019 after a huge public outcry during which over 40 people showed up at one of its meetings to protest this proposed installation. Workers at the site have told investigators recently that the purpose of this ongoing construction is for Verizon to install wireless transmitters on this currently empty tower. I would like to ask this board to investigate this ongoing construction by Verizon that is directly opposed to the will of the vast majority of the residents of Middletown. I'm calling upon you to represent us in this issue. We already have a cell phone reception in Middletown, and we do not need or want this installation that many locals see as a very high risk to the health and safety of the community. Not only are the required variances completely unacceptable, but the impact on nearby property values is also a substantial issue. No one in Middletown wants to live or work next to a cell tower. Furthermore, plenty of peer-reviewed scientific evidence exists as to the significant health and environmental risks of cell tower transmitters, and when 4G transitions to 5G, nearby residents and workers will be exposed to high and basically experimental levels of microwave radiation. Please visit Stop 5G Middletown for more information about the Middletown site that Verizon is currently starting construction at and to get involved further. Also, please join the Stop 5G Tower in Middletown group on Facebook to see what you can do and when we will be meeting further to discuss this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Charles Bono. If you can unmute and state your name for the record, and we'll start at 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Charles Bono. I'm in Middletown, and I want to address the Verizon tower that they're fully under construction. I spoke to a man by the name of Ron who would not disclose his last name. He worked for Quality Telecom Consultants. He told me that he had been contracted by Bechtel as a subcontractor to install he denied it was for 5G. He said it was for 4G, and that Verizon was putting up the tower anyway. Now, I believe that there's a certain process that has to be followed, and neighbors are supposed to be advised as to the construction of a cell tower before it goes up. Usually we get letters if there's a bar going in, or, we get a letter from the county asking if we approve of the construction. We never got any notification that they were approved for this project, and I want to know when that approval happened. Furthermore, the construction should cease before people are allowed to say anything on the matter. At any rate, that's all I have for today. If you could please address this, and if you could please give me the date that Verizon got the approval for this measure, and who approved it, please.
All right, thank you. Is there any
Can I
other
get an answer to can I get an answer to those questions?
We would have to get back to you on that answer because we don't have it available, and we primarily don't comment during public input as such. So we'll have to ensure someone gets to you with that information. All right, is there anyone else that has public comment? Anybody online? I don't see anybody, so I'll bring it back to the board, and we will move on to our next item on the agenda, which is our 6.3, public hearing regarding consideration discussion of naming a certain existing unnamed road, Snow Road in Lower Lake. And we have Scott De Leon, Director of Public Works, here to speak on this item?
Good morning.
Good morning.
On June 28th of this year, your board approved a resolution of intent to name a certain existing road in Lower Lake. The proposed name is Snow Road. During that time, that resolution of intent set a public hearing for this morning at 9:15 to consider any public input on the proposed road. That's what today's item is the public hearing to take up any input. And in the absence of any compelling public input to the contrary, staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors adopt the name as proposed.
Is there any comments from the board? We'll open it up for public input. Is there anybody in the chambers that would like to speak on item 6.3? Hearing none, I don't see any in the chambers. I'll look online. I don't see any hands up. So I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to name the road Snows Road in Lower Lake. Would that work?
I believe so, as proposed.
As proposed.
Thank you.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries.
I look forward to the day where it snows on Snow Road. They can celebrate.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. So with that, our next timed item is at 9:45, so we'll go ahead and move on to some of the non-timed items. We'll start with 7.2, consideration of Middle Creek Project Committee appointment. Supervisor Sabatier, if you wanted to go ahead and elaborate on this.
Sure. I do apologize that this could have been blended in with the other item under 7.3, I believe, or 7.4. But basically, we had, as you all know, Peter Windrum stepped down from being on the committee. We had an open vacant seat. We flew the position for approximately 2 weeks, open for application. We received only one application. The applicant, in my opinion, is qualified and will be a great asset to the committee. And so looking forward to approving the application today.
Any other comments from the board? Anyone in the public? I'll open it up to the public input. I don't see anybody in the chambers. I'm looking online. For Zoom, I do not see anybody, and so I will bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve Mary Jo Velasquez as appointed to the Middle Creek Restoration Committee.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's see. We'll go to 7.3. And this is also, let me read it, sorry. I was almost just not going to read it. Consideration of letter to CPUSC regarding CPUC fast trip regulations, Supervisor Sabatier.
So we received both Supervisor Crandall and myself, Chair Crandall and myself, received a letter from RCRC requesting that we also provide our own letter of support. As we all know, PSPS was introduced back in 2018. We experienced a lot of it in 2019. It's been slowly diminished as far as the impacts, but there are new tactics that are investor-owned utilities, the IOUs that I wrote about in the memo, that they're utilizing, and one of them is a fast trip. And the fast trip is their way of shutting down our electricity in fear that there may be an issue in the system, though it's not obvious that there's an issue. It's not related to red flag warnings. It's not related to high winds or low humidity. It's related more to like impacts of trees or contact with the poles or things like that, and it's a safety measure. However, there are no regulations from CPUC on how that should be utilized and how that is accomplished by those IOUs. And so the letter that we've received that we mimicked for our letter of support basically request the CPUC to take up this fast trip and also the other style of shutdowns that PG&E and others are utilizing and create their own regulations so it's not just in the hands of PG&E, because this impacts our businesses, this impacts our schools, our hospitals, this impacts everybody across the board in a varying types of ways, and it would be better if we can predict how it works and how it functions based on the regulations that have been approved than to just allow them to just do it as they feel is appropriate for them. So the letter has been written and provided for you to review, and hopefully today we can approve it and send it to CPUC.
Thank you for that description, Supervisor Sabatier. Is there anybody on the board that has a comment? No. Open it up to the public. Is there anybody in the chambers that has a comment on this item? Not seeing any. I'll bring it back to the Zoom room, see if there's any hands up. I don't see any. And I'll give it a second. Don't see any on that note. I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the letter to the CPUC regarding fast trip regulations.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries 5-0. Next, 7.4, consideration of the following advisory board appointments, Resource Conservation District. And with that, I think this is the clerk of the board, so I'll give it to the CAO.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, actually, we just usually do, we just usually do this. So I think what we have is Resource Conservation District position open, one vacancy, and it looks like it's Mary Jo Velasquez for reappointment. And so is there any discussion on this item on the agenda? Anybody in the public that would like to comment on 7.4? Not seeing anybody, and I'll look online. And I'm not seeing any. So what I'll do is bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the reappointment of Mary Jo Velasquez to the Resource Conservation District.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries 5-0. I am going to go to item 7.6 if possible. I'm not sure if Lakeco will take a lot more time, so I'll just go ahead and go to this one. This item is consideration of support letter for the California Water Service AMI Advanced Metering Infrastructure Installation Northern California Project for the Water Smart Water Energy Efficiency Grant Application FY23 cycle. And I brought this forward, got an email from Cal Water on Friday or Thursday, and so I wanted to ensure we got this to the board. Luckily, it got there in time. Basically, what this does is another mechanism to assist Lucerne with lower rates, water conservation, and Cal Water, and giving Cal Water the support to apply for this grant funding. So this will help this community in need, and so figured I'd bring it forward so we could support it. Supervisor Sabatier.
I will say thank you for the conversation that we both had regarding this. I know I checked in with Golden State Water, a similar type of company as Cal Water. They are looking at this grant as well. They do not have the AMI installed. Definitely is an expensive feature, which is why the grant is helpful for them to get access to that. I would say in my personal difference of opinion is it does help with water conservation. Not sure about lowering rates, but we could always hope.
All right, any other comments? Are they going to be, do you want to add them to the letter? Or
Until they've filled out a grant, there's no need for us to do that, and I told them to get a hold of us as soon as they submit the grant, and we'd be happy to put a letter of support on this agenda.
Supervisor Simon?
Same thing. If there are any water districts out there that are going for this, we do what we can to help support them.
So I'll open it up to public input. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak on this matter?
I just had Cheryl Carr, Upper Lake. I just had a question for Bruno. Is there any way to make it mandatory that if they receive a grant, that it could be reflected in those high utility bills for the Lucerne customers?
Every grant is different, and how they can be utilized, whether it's specific to equipment, specific to infrastructure expansion, or I don't know of a grant that reduces rates. But increasing and enhancing your infrastructure where maybe possibly that allows you to reduce your rates, that's definitely possible. But every grant is specific on how it can be handled, so we can't make a request that grants be used as such unless it's possible.
It's a pity. It was exciting for a second.
Thank you. Any other public comment? I'm looking on Zoom. I'm not seeing any hands up. So I will bring it back to the board for action. And if anyone wants to make the motion, I'm happy with that.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the support letter for the California Water Service AMI Advanced Metering Infrastructure Installation for the Water Smart Water Energy Efficiency Grant Application fiscal year 23 cycle.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries 500. Should we take up 7.5? Or,
They're not available, but you can go back to 5.3.
oh, yeah.
That was pulled previously.
I totally missed. Let's go back to 5.3. So as was pulled earlier, adopt resolution amending resolution number 2022-69 establishing position allocations for fiscal year 2022-2023, budget unit number 1012 administrative office. And Supervisor Sabatier, I know you pulled this, but CAO Parker, I didn't know if you wanted to start out.
I just, a brief background. This grant was applied for by the former CAO, and we received a letter of award 2 weeks ago. We met with Cal OES last week to discuss the job description and the next steps in order to receive the award. And this is the first of those 2 steps regarding resolutions. The position allocation, and then the second will be accepting the award from the state of California.
Supervisor Sabatier?
So the reason I pulled is I didn't know enough about the grant specifically, and I just noticed after pulling it, I was just going through my email real quick, noticed that I did receive the grant. It looks to me like it's supposed to be focused on the Clear Lake, maybe Lower Lake, Clear Lake Oaks area, because it talks about census tract 7.01 and 7.02, which is the sulfur bank, sulfur fire. It mentions that a few times. I don't think it's limited to that, but I think that's supposed to be the beginning focus. Then there's supposed to be an additional position added on, administrative assistant.
That position was removed from Cal OES.
Okay.
The original grant was in the 900s, and now it's at 600.
And so I guess my 2 remaining questions, and I appreciate the detail because I just had no idea. I have ideas of what it's supposed to be used for, but adding a position without the conversation and understanding what exactly we're getting out of the position, I get it that it's paid for, but we want to make sure what are we doing for it. My question is, what is the so this will be under our CAO, so under the direction and guidance of the CAO. What is the relationship between, because it seems like there would be a relationship, but what is the relationship between the Chief Resiliency Officer and the RRA is one of my questions.
All right.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
so we're still, obviously, we had the kickoff meeting with Cal OES, and, we were encouraged to apply for Cal OES because we had the same issue when it came out that was focused on a certain area. What they did was encouraged and said, no, this is going to be countywide operations. We needed, it was limited at the time. They were just creating the program, but they said, Lake County, please submit. So in the conversations with them, they opened it up to the entire county, and that's why we finally were like, it won't work for one area. We need it for the whole county. So they have committed to that. They committed to that in our meeting as we move through the process. So this person will be a complete collaborator with the Risk Reduction Authority, Lake County Fire Safe Council, OES office, all the organizations that are working on our climate resiliency efforts here in the county. So obviously fire being one of the main ones to start with, but we have drought, we have earthquake, we have everything else that needs to be addressed through the Risk Reduction Authority. So we're going to be setting those up as we go through. Cal OES is committed to basically work in partnership with us on this because it's kind of a pilot program, being that we're only one of 3 counties that were selected for this at this point, and that's how we're going to move forward with building this program.
Supervisor Pyska.
Yeah, so in the job description, which I think you got, it mentions that this is going to be a collaborator with all of our NGOs. and all of our organizations, but also within our department. So our department heads, we can pull all that work together under one position.
Okay. And I breezed through it because I just barely got it this morning and didn't even know I had it until just half an hour, not even an hour ago. So I appreciate the extra detail. Wondering if there's a point in the future where we might be getting a report on anticipated objectives, anticipated actions, or something like that?
I think that is actually what we plan to do. Once we get this, since it's a new position, it's a new approach to addressing these issues. I think that once we do make that hire, that they develop an action plan, the next steps, the timeline. It's a 5-year grant, and I think we should have a action plan with deliverables or the plans or the public outreach or engagement timelines, or even updates on additional grants that will be applied for.
And we have quarterly report, well, we're not sure if it's quarterly, but we have a lot of reporting to do with Cal OES as we go through the process, but they have made it very, very clear many, many times that's a one-time grant. And so we're going to have to start planning the next phase on how we pay for this on our own or go after other grants, because it will end after 5 years.
Yeah, yeah. One of my thoughts, and again, something I'm not sure if it's on the potential plan, is this something that can eventually create a climate action plan for our general plan, since I know we don't have one, and the state of California requires us to have one if we update our general plan? Was that part of the thought, or is that kind of a separate entity?
I think in coordination with CDD, that can be part of the plan, and I think we should outline that expectation when we do the interviews too.
Okay, and just some questions, just because it was, I don't have a problem with it, especially the funding of it right now is definitely not a problem. I appreciate the work being done to get this grant. I just wanted to know a little bit better and better understand what the new allocation position would actually provide for us, and how it would work in concert with some of the other agencies, because I know the RRA is quite a large entity that's still growing, and I knew that there would be at least some interaction, if not a lot of interaction with the RRA, so I just wanted to understand it better. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments from the board? Not hearing any. I'll open it up for public input. Anybody in the chambers wish to speak on this item, 5.3? I'm looking on Zoom. I don't see any hands up as well, so I will bring it back to the board for action. Supervisor Sabatier.
Never mind. Our established position allocation is a year-to-year. I was just wondering why it's only 22-23 when it's a 5-year grant, but obviously it'll be part of the 23-24 position allocation, so never mind.
Yes, sir.
I offer the resolution.
Resolution has been offered.
Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Scott?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Yes. All right. The resolution passes 5-0. Looks like we have a couple minutes before our 9:45. I think we can take a short break, 5-minute break, and come back.
We'll let him sit up.
Right. We'll let the next presenter set up. So we'll take a short break.
Checking microphone, checking microphone. Microphone check, microphone check. Check, microphone check.
All right, thank you. Welcome back from our break. We will now move on to our 9:45, 6.4 presentation, CDBG grant project and program activities update. With that, Susan Parker, this is your item. However, I know you'll introduce the presenters.
Yes, good morning, Board. We have CDS presenting basically an annual report on the projects and the grants that we've received in the past. We have Jeff Lucas, and I don't know, is Andy Lucas speaking too, or?
Maybe I'll fill in the gap.
Oh, okay. But I will hand it over to Mr. Lucas, Jeff Lucas.
Thank you. At the last presentation regarding the CDBG program, the board requested that we provide a report on CDBG activities to date, as well as what's ongoing and what we foresee in the future. So we'll try to keep it short and sweet. I have Andy Lucas with our office here with me, and Deborah Swartz, who does a lot of the administrative work on the projects that we work on, especially the CDBG activities. We also have California and Ben from the Cobb Mountain Water District, and they were our partners and worked very closely with us in implementing one of the larger grants, the CDBG grants that I'll get into really quickly. I just wanted to make sure and remind the board that these funds are primarily to benefit low and moderate household incomes, and we do that in several ways through loans to businesses who then in turn hire or retain folks who are in that income level, or we prepare grants and obtain funds, and then those funds are used for infrastructure projects. And a great example of that would be the...
Next slide, please, Matthew.
There was a gap.
Just fill it in.
And we're moving on to the next one, Matthew.
Thank you.
So this was a grant that we pursued, and the HCD, the state, was reticent to provide the funds to us after the Valley Fire. However, the board, as well as Senator McGuire, worked very hard to get these funds, and we received them. We prepared the application and have been administering with the district the implementation of the funds. It was over $5.5 million in CDBG funds matched with Water Resources Control Board funds. I think that $1,912,000 is really $1,812,000, sorry. At any rate, those two funding sources were utilized and put to good use by the folks at the Cobb Area Water District. And I have them here today, and I'd like them, if you guys wouldn't mind, just coming up and giving a brief summation of the use of those funds. The project worked really well after the fires. These two were instrumental in using the funds and up on Cobb. And I'll just turn it over to you and let you do your thing.
Benjamin Lee Murphy, General Manager of the Cobb Area County Water District. The state funds was actually 2.18, I think, because the estimates are off and things cost so much now. The Cobb Area Water District benefited from this program massively, especially in the Summit area. It was a very old system that leaked a lot. It was where the burn scar mostly went through Cobb. Everybody's able to rebuild with sprinkler systems off the water system now. We have all 1-inch services. The big thing is we used to use about 52 acre feet of water per year out of that well. That number went down to 21 acre feet. We literally were leaking that much in that system. So in a drought standpoint, it really helped. These projects can help save water, because there's a lot of systems out there that are doing the same thing. The Hill 9 and 10 project was primarily paid for through CDBG funds. It was a very old, antiquated system on 2-inch Schedule 20, and now has a tank for fire flow. It was intertied with the branding iron system, so we're able to move water back and forth between those two systems when one's low, and they put in a lot of cloud-based monitoring, so it takes a lot of time out of my guys' schedule to work on other things. So the Cobb Area Water District and the community up there benefited extremely from these projects. So, Cal, you got anything to add?
No, you pretty much covered it all, Ben. One thing is it also cut down on overtime. Our old systems that were leaking all the time, I was out there, all night long. You get one thing done just for another leak to pop right up and keep you out there till morning. And the drought issue, our well levels are holding. We've got water right below the ground still, where in years past with the drought and all the leaks we were trying to chase around and find, and some never showed up, the well levels would get scary low. So the grants really worked and really helped out the infrastructure in our small, low-income community.
And one thing I'd like to add is, we're not the only community that can benefit from these programs, and it's good that the county is pushing for these types of grants. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for?
I just want to add a couple things, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so,
fine.
Ben in California and Jeff and Andy and Deb, all of it, everybody worked really hard. We were all knocking on doors and explaining this to people, and it was a huge effort. There were many other volunteers that jumped in, but everybody realized what a great need this was to have the infrastructure in place to set up a recovery for the housing, for rebuilding, for a whole community to recover. So now, as they mentioned, there's capacity for sprinklers in every home, but there's also fire suppression. There's new hydrants. How far apart are they?
Every 250 to 500 feet. It just depends on where they were able to place them.
Yeah.
Being mountainous the way we are up there, it's sometimes difficult to put a hydrant on the side of a bank. And you want to make sure that the roads are narrow, so you want to make sure the fire truck has enough room to pull over so another fire truck can go by. So.
And they're all standardized.
Yep.
Right.
Right? Same size. So
Same
the fit,
size,
so that when the trucks get there, they can hook up. There was, you
From
had a mixed bag up there, didn't you?
Yes. Right. From a fire point, it was a huge upgrade for Cobb because we did not have that. I lived in that neighborhood just like Supervisor Pyska. When the fire came through and we had 4-inch wharfs on a 60,000 gallon tank, we have a 200,000 gallon tank that was paid for through Prop 1, the state of California, and a brand new infrastructure that comes off that tank. The school now has a 200,000 gallon tank above it, and everything's been upgraded to a point where we can move water around and not have to, the intertie thing is a really important thing, to have all these systems intertied, because some water systems don't have that big tank. Some water systems don't have the flow that they need coming out of their well.
Or the reliable well.
Or a reliable well, exactly. So these programs are great things.
And back to the hydrants too, we did have some commercial 6-inch hydrants, but they were fed by 2-inch and 4-inch mains, so.
Right.
Kind of pointless.
Yep.
So now everything is the way it should be.
And we don't have water outages. We used to have water outages constantly, and I'd go outside with dinner for these guys because they'd be out in the front yard all night long. And then we'd have to boil water for 3 days. So it was a little rough and wild there for quite a few years. I really want to thank you guys for doing so much work, and the team here with CDS for being so dedicated.
You guys are great. It was whenever we needed you, we called, you answer the phone, you'd have an answer for us, or you'd be up on the mountain, to help us out. So thank you to all of you. And you Supervisors from Pyska. You were out there knocking on the doors with us.
So this has been an incredibly successful program, and there's needs like this all over our county, and this has been held up as an example by the state for our county to be able to grow in this way. So thank you, everybody, for setting that great example.
Thank you, Ben.
And just so you know, it was just under 900,000 gallons a month.
When we put the
That
new
was being
system
lost.
online, it was towards the winter time, and we went from using 300,000 a week to 80,000 gallons a week. That's how much the system was leaking.
Wow.
And the proof of that is after the well, we leased that well, and so we paid for that water. And so seeing it at 21 acre feet for the first time, and I've worked for Cobb Water since 2008. It's always been around 50, 75, depending on, you know, the leaky tank that we used to have or whatever the case was. So it's a huge impact on the drought numbers. So just in one system, we have 14 sources. So that's,
We're going to be doing this over and over again.
Supervisor Sabatier, you have your pen up?
Yeah, I know that it only lists 4 systems, but I know there was a consolidation of like 9, I believe, was the
Right.
number. But the details of the 9, I think one aspect that hasn't been discussed is the public health and safety to ensure that the water is of the quality that everyone deserves to have when it comes out of their faucet. It's difficult to manage when you have such a small, I mean, one of them only had 14 people on the water district. That's just not easy to manage and treat and process the water correctly in order to bring that to a household in the appropriate way. By consolidating, you're able to use the economy of scale, and it works out so well for our water districts. And we have a lot of these examples still all around our county of small water districts that are struggling, and I think you're a perfect example of that. And as Supervisor Pyska mentioned, the state gave LAFCO an award, and I'm going to say that Mr. Murphy, that you put in the most heavy work behind all of that to get that state award, to be able to accomplish the goal. Not only is it your system, but it's also your neighborhood, and I think that it was a actual personal passion of yours to make this fix and make it happen, so I appreciate the work that you put into it.
I had a lot of support from a lot of people, so it was a team effort for sure, but I appreciate the kudos on that. Thank you.
And to your point, Supervisor Sabatier, when you have solid infrastructure, you free up your operators to focus on quality of water. So if you're not out chasing leaks and wondering where all your water is going, you can send out a better product to your customers.
That's correct.
Yep.
Thank you.
And just one final point, this infrastructure, has it lifted the building moratorium in Hill 9 and 10, or is it about to? Because we have had moratoriums where we didn't.
Currently, we have a moratorium on new services due to our drought ordinance. We're in stage 2 of our drought because we're just trying to make sure that we conserve as much as possible. We do, if somebody had been working on a property, a bare property for years prior, and we knew that, then we would, but not at Hill 9 and 10 and Branding Iron. Until phase 2 happens, when we drill the new well, there just isn't enough water out there to, we were able to add a few services, but there's just not enough water out there to support any more than that's out there.
You have to worry about the existing.
As you get closer to Cobb, there's a little more abundance of water. So like the subdivision you live in, I would never allow a new lot because there's all the burn lots. But like say Fox Drive, Venturi, in those areas, they're on a different well that could handle maybe an expansion of that system. So it's a case-by-case basis currently. The board decides that.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, we had some good discussions working with the state of California on that project. And those guys, they never gave up on their work. They always focused on completing the tasks, and it was good working with them. One of the other things I want to point out is on the infrastructure activities for that particular grant was the new bridge that was part of that project, and there's the picture there. That is what we call in the grant application a water system support structure. The state had issues with calling it a bridge, but so we used that terminology, and when they questioned the size of it, we just indicated it was reinforced. So the pipe runs underneath, which you often do with water pipes, but it was a way, and it's important in that particular community to have 2 access points in case of another fire. And Supervisor Pyska, you might want to add to that a little bit, but I don't think that bridge would have been, we wouldn't have had the money to do it if we hadn't tucked it into this particular grant.
So this, there was a old substandard bridge with another old bridge on top of it, and it washed out in the storms of 2017. And the abutments washed out, everything washed out. And it left this neighborhood extremely vulnerable, one way in and one way out, with a lot of elderly people, a lot of people in this neighborhood. This is one of the areas that did not burn in the Valley Fire. And it was a source of a lot of stress for a lot of people. And the problem is the county maintained road ended like, was it like 20 feet on the other side of that bridge? So it was never anybody's real responsibility. So it was a big topic for a long time. And this project happened to come along at the perfect time because the water system on the other side of the creek needed the pipeline. And so it became the pipeline support project, not a bridge. And now this neighborhood has this incredibly safe bridge. A full semi truck can go over it, a full cement truck can go over it. And this neighborhood has 2 safe ways to escape if there's another fire. And hydrants too along there. So it's massive, and it took creativity from all the partners and all the team. And again, a lot of knocking on doors, but everybody made it happen. So thank you. Thank you guys. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
Next slide, please.
Nice. So that's a great illustration of what can be done with these block grant funds as far as infrastructure improvements go. And what we wanted to transfer into now is a little bit about what we're doing now with the existing grants that are open. The COB grant is going to close out, we will make our last drawdown of funds by August 31st, and then a few months after that, actually do the closeout of the grant. That'll be finished. Previously, the board has applied for funds through the Community Development Block Grant, CV 1, 2, and 3 grant process. And with those particular grants, we've accessed funds for business loans between $35,000 to $80,000 and $175,000 to $210,000. These funds are currently being applied for by various businesses throughout the county. There are various types and sizes to retain jobs because there's still a holdover from the COVID period. Right now, the economy is pretty mixed up. We've been doing this a long time, and we're seeing a variety of applications for a variety of purposes. So we are using these funds. They provide a 1% low interest rate loan platform to work from. If these loans come through that we've been working on, which we anticipate having them completed in about 2 months, all of them, will retain about 22 full-time equivalent positions in aggregate. So those programs, the last time we were here, I think we were just starting to have our workshops. We had one in Upper Lake the day before, I think, and we had 1 person there. Then Middletown, we had 13, and then Kelseyville, I think, a day or 2 later, and we had 13 or 14 there. The cumulative results is that people have now applied, and they're working their way through the process. Next slide, please. So in addition to the CV funds, we have Cdbg, what we call the regular allocation of funds. There's $415,000 available there. You can see the numbers that we have. Those are loans between $35,000 to $105,000. Those funds appear to be booked up, and we anticipate getting those funds out in about 60 days as well. We also have a Community Development Block Grant Micro Enterprise Technical Assistance Program we're operating. We have, when we made this slide, we had 15 small businesses that are receiving technical assistance, like with QuickBooks and marketing and business planning and a whole variety of things. But that's actually, we're at about, I think, maybe 19 now. And one of the things we do with those funds too is some of these smaller loans, the folks will go through the micro enterprise program, get the technical assistance they need so that they'll be a better borrower and be able to repay the loan funds, because we kind of help them understand their forecasts and their cash flow and what's going on It's all part of doing good lending as well as providing assistance to our local small businesses. So that's both these programs, all these programs are pretty active right now. Next slide, please.
I think that'll actually be the end of the presentation. So I'd just like to quickly add, if I may, the program is meant for low, moderate income individuals. The public benefit is the retention and creation of jobs. So in working with these businesses, and we're working with several of them, Lower Lake, Nice, Upper Lake, Middletown, sort of all over the unincorporated outside of the city limits of Lakeport and Clear Lake. The program design, it's difficult, it's onerous, as the board is well aware, dealing with the state, and then sort of the actual process of going through the certifications with the business, with the employees. There's a certification process with the employees. So it is onerous, but I will say that the benefit to the program is going to help these businesses either come out from under some of the high interest debt that they've accumulated or help them to survive. So I'd just like to thank the county for the opportunity to they went after these funds and then they're being implemented. So thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
And to wrap up, we have 3 applications working on right now. They're due August 19th. One for additional low interest loan funds for job creation, one for additional funds for technical assistance to microenterprise small businesses, and then the third one is for a study to do an assessment of the housing needs and also to develop a strategy to implement a housing program that gets at rehab housing, site development, and it would take us to the position where, in line with the housing element of the county, we could start being a little more proactive towards developing housing, not only for low mod folks, but housing for everybody. That's the concept of what we're pursuing these funds for. Also, one other point is we want to do an assessment in this analysis of the impacts of tourism and the seasonal nature of the bed and breakfast locations and the Airbnbs and how those are impacting housing to come up with, again, with sort of a plan that'll help make more housing available year-round for everyone.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other comments or questions? Supervisor Sabatier?
Appreciate the presentation. I know that there's been a lot of interest lately in supporting businesses right now, whether they're new businesses or expanding businesses or just businesses that are struggling, which is great that you're here. I was looking, and we have some community development staff here, and just curious, we know when we're approving use permits or developments, we're contracting with you. Are we handing out that information as well so they're aware that they can contact you if there's any needs for expansion or any needs for anything that you might be able to support them with? I'm just hoping that since we contract and we're a part of this process, and these are funds that are ours that we ask you to deliver to our communities, if we can maybe put some type of informational flyer together for when we approve projects or new businesses. We don't do business licenses. That would be an easy one to connect it to, but we do approve of development and things like that. And I think it would be a great idea to make sure that they're not just trying to figure out who they can call, but they already know who they can call if there's a need that comes up in the future. Just hopeful that we can maybe implement something like that. None of the stuff that you mentioned today, obviously, because you just said you're still filling out the application, has to do with the $1 million that we are requesting, I believe, is what we approved a few weeks ago.
Oh, so if we could back up just a sec. That is a great idea to have the information available at the counters, and we have had that for years. It's really good. What we need to do is kind of update that, and with the transition at the Community Development Department, we'll probably need to have a meeting and kind of update and exchange information and kind of refresh that, so to speak. So it's something we've always tried to do. That's important to me. I communicate that to you. And then these applications that we're working on now are in response to the availability of that $1.5 1.5. So we're going after, there's limitations within that 1.5. So we have an application for $500,000 for more business loans. That's the most we can go after. $250 for the micro enterprise. That's the most we can go after, and $250 for the technical assistance for the housing.
Right.
And they also only limit 3 activities, so those are the
Yeah, so
3
we-
that the county selected.
Yeah, that's
And some of the programs that you were describing today for the loans that you're making to businesses, this will rebuild your cash flow to be able to continue supporting. It's not a new program, it's in addition to what you're already doing, and you're able to continue the work that you've already started.
Yeah, that's a great observation. So as the funds come in from the loans, then we have a revolving, what they used to call a revolving loan fund. We can't call it that anymore, but that's what it is. So the funds come in, and the county can hold those and do more loans, or, you know, through board action, and say, okay, we're gonna pull some of those funds and we're gonna apply them to an infrastructure project similar to what we just talked about, or a housing program that will help prepare folks to pursue, you know, buying their own home, that kind of thing. So you have variety. There's a series of steps you have to go through, but by having those funds revolve and come back in, it's very beneficial to the county because it provides more funds to kind of sustain these things.
So you got to find another word for revolving loan, kind of like the support infrastructure.
Yes, you have to get
And
creative.
my last comment has to do with CDBG access to our full county and all department heads. I had been speaking with CAO Parker and just wanted to make sure that if any of our departments are seeking grant funding that's available through CDBG or grants.gov, that they just need, if they don't have access to that, that they need to contact our administrator or CAO in order to get the username and password or whatever it is to sign up for the SAM Done. I don't even know what that stands for. Done SAM, to be able to access all of those things. And I just wanted to make sure that they're aware of that, and hopefully we can continue to remind them. We do have some new directors coming in and out sometimes, so I want to make sure that they're aware. Appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments from the board? Supervisor
I
Simon.
appreciate the work being done also to just, you know, to support those businesses in Lake County, but also the infrastructure and the consolidation that was done after the Valley Fire. You know, Senator McGuire, City Aggie, Curry, our representatives I know really went to work. You know, I was just coming on the board when he was even in some meetings before I was on the board, as I saw that work. The CAO's office, admin, special districts, Jan Coppinger at that time. There was a lot of work done to look at the long-term you know, rebuilding of the infrastructure and those types of things. And, you know, it's already been talked about the award that was given, but, yeah, those continuing conversations of consolidation around the county will keep going, but it is, you know, that Cobb Mountain project and all the work was done was, you know, really put in some great effort by everyone. So it was great to see the outcome. It's been so beneficial to us, and continue those conversations. We have the right infrastructure. We can do whatever we want to do here in Lake County, so we'll just continue that growth. So just wanted to make sure that all the representatives and everybody that I witnessed seeing working on that, you know, just they really deserve that credit, because it was, you know, never done before, at least in that size, I don't think, and that's why the accolades came this way to Lake County. So it was great foresight, even in the midst of, you know, a terrible tragedy that we were going through. So just want to say that.
All right. Hearing no other comments from the board, I'll open it up to the public. If there's anybody from the public that would like to speak about 6.4, not seeing anybody, and or in Zoom. So I'll bring it back to the board and close this item. Thank you very much for the presentation. We appreciate the work you do and coming forward and giving this an update so we can see the good work's going on. So,
thank you.
We went too long, but.
All right.
Thanks for coming. It's always great seeing you all.
Pretty good. Thank you, guys.
I'm going to let Matt.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so next we are going to move on to item 6.5, presentation of proclamation commending Supervisor Tina Scott. And so I'll read this proclamation, and I think Matthew is going to give a statement on behalf of Congressman Thompson's office briefly before I read this proclamation. Oh, there he is. I thought you were going to come on Zoom. I apologize.
It's okay. Good morning, Board. So Congressman Thompson's Deputy Chief of Staff, Brad Honorado, had expected to join today's meeting to present a congressional resolution honoring Supervisor Scott's exemplary service. Unfortunately, due to scheduling conflicts, he could not be present after all. However, he wanted me to assure you Congressman Thompson looks forward to connecting with you, Supervisor Scott, soon to convey his heartfelt thanks for your tremendous work on behalf of Lake County and District 4 residents. Thank you for your service.
I have to come down there with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got to do this. Got to do this right. And so first, before I read this, Tina, it's been an honor serving with you. When I came on as the Board of Supervisor, I didn't know what to expect, and some of your tutelage helped me out here and there. You know, you were the chair at the time when I came on. We attended quite a few different meetings together, and your experience really made a difference for me. And I noticed a lot of the work you did in the community. You were always present for the community, and you always advocated for the homeless and for people that were in need, and especially foster children and children that needed attention. So I want to say thank you for all of that and for setting such a fine example. All right, and so with that, I'll read the proclamation commending Supervisor Tina Scott. Whereas following 5 years, 7 months of distinguished, compassionate, and dedicated public service as District 4, Supervisor Tina Scott is resigning July 31st, 2022. And whereas throughout her time as Supervisor, Scott has been a powerful and effective advocate for the needs of Lake County's unhoused individuals and has partnered with the Lake County Continuum of Care, Hope Rising, Elijah House, and other community-based organizations to make a meaningful difference for many residents, including contributions to the establishments of transitional housing programs in Lakeport and Clear Lake in efforts to increase federal funding for supportive housing and intensive case management. And whereas Tina Scott is also a passionate and enduring advocate for foster youth in Lake County, whose own family has brought strong support in 65 foster placements, and this experience and perspective brought essentially irreplaceable value to community assignments such as the First Five Commission and Children's Council, and enhanced the Board of Supervisors' capacity to promote the well-being of every Lake County resident. And whereas as a certified tourism ambassador since 2016, Supervisor Scott effectively supported the Chamber of Commerce and contributed to broader efforts to promote tourism and help visitors to Lake County have a positive and memorable experience. And whereas in 2018, Scott was honored by United States Congressman Mike Thompson as the 5th Congressional District's Angel in Adoption, bringing greater attention to the profound need of resource parents in Lake County. And whereas also in 2018, Scott was appointed to join a small group of supervisors and other government officials from California, Alaska, and Hawaii that met with the President of the United States, and she has consistently sought opportunities to make the interests and priorities of Lake County residents known at the state and national levels. And whereas Supervisor Scott has been a true partner to Lake County's Health Services Department in promoting the best possible health outcomes for every Lake County resident, and brought both insight and grit to the county's response to the historic COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas Tina Scott has shown uncommon dedication to ensuring difficult public conversations are effectively informed and facilitated in a broad array of subject matter areas, from wildlife-related issues to energy and climate resiliency to public education surrounding the dangers of vaping to watershed and flooding-related matters. And whereas Scott has long been a constant and visible proponent of diversity, equity, and inclusion in Lake County, and brought the credibility of a true community leader to the Board of Supervisors' own and countywide effort to promote greater tolerance and justice in 2021 and 2022. And whereas after decades of disagreement, Supervisor Scott helped the county and city of Lakeport meaningfully progress towards annexation of 137 acres in the South Main Street area by the city as a member of the negotiating team that successfully forged a tax sharing agreement adopted by both governing bodies January 11, 2022. And whereas our board and the county of Lake are pleased, very pleased, Tina Scott will remain a leader and transformative figure in Lake County for years to come, entering service with Lakeport Unified School District this fall. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, Tina Scott is hereby commended for her dedicated service to all Lake County connected individuals, and we extend our deeply valued colleague and friend best wishes for good health, happiness, and great success in the years ahead. Issued this 26th day of July, 2022.
Everything that I've been able to accomplish and succeed has been the work of the passionate and employees that we have here at the County Lake. Nothing could have been done without them. So I just want to thank them for all their hard work, their dedication, coming to work every day. A lot of the work I've done, it's not with widgets, it's with people. And that's hard. You're dealing with real people when you're making decisions. So I just want to remind this board, when we're making decisions about people, we need to remember that. It's people that we may be displacing or moving, or they may not be getting services because of the decisions that are made here at this board. So I thank you for allowing me to serve.
Or should I open it to the public first?
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and allow if you would like to speak.
Morning, Supervisor Scott, Board. Unfortunately, Sheriff is unavailable to attend today, so he asked me to come here today and convey some of his thoughts and feelings. First off, the Sheriff would like to convey that he appreciates and the collaboration that Supervisor Scott spent with the Sheriff's Office and assisted us in providing better services to our community as a whole from the Sheriff's Office. And he'd like to convey his thanks for your service to the community, and I'm sure that many members of the community would also like to thank you for that service. So again, thank you. On behalf of the Sheriff's Office, we appreciate the service that you've provided to our community.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Jillian?
I'm getting prompted by my husband to take my mask off. Jillian Perillo, North Lakeport, and you know, it's a terribly sad day, really, because Tina is such a motivating force in this county. So reachable by so many people in this county. People feel like they understand her. They know she's always looking out for them. And we've mentioned in the proclamation, but it's so important that Tina's been great supporter of everybody in the county, but especially the most vulnerable. The voice for the voiceless. And I hope when she's not on the board anymore, that you please reach down as far as you can and try to take up what she always gave selflessly so often, so many years. It feels like 20. Is it only 7 months? And I just so hope that the students at Clear Lake High School understand what they're getting, because she's going to do a fabulous job there, motivating, being a mentor to all those kids. And as always Tina does, wherever she goes, she makes a huge difference. So thank you so much. Glad to be part of the journey in the beginning, and here we are at the end, and can't tell you how much we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian.
Morning, Supervisors. Just switching hats for a moment. Mireya Turner, Mayor Pro Tem, City of Lakeport. I just wanted to express my appreciation of how we worked together ever since you came onto the board. I used to get exhausted just keeping up with her Facebook posts about where she was in the county. Holy moly. But I appreciated the opportunities that we had to work together, from fun stuff like judging the Memorial Day Parade to actually the more serious and important things in our county, like the pit count and communicating with our homeless population. So one thing I've so appreciated about Tina is her authenticity. You know, she walks her talk, and it's so clear to the community the things that are important to her, which is our community. Both are from our older people down to our younger people. And it's just been a joy and a privilege to have you as our representative for our city, for the county. Thank you.
Samantha Bond, Executive Director for First Five Lake County. I just wanted to thank you not only for sitting on this board and speaking openly about the needs of the children here, but also on the First Five Lake County Commission and being that voice of reason constantly. When I stepped in, you were chair, and it was really great to have somebody sitting on the chair who was able to help guide me through the process of my transition into this position. And you will be deeply missed on our commission, and I look forward to seeing what more we can do to work together in your new position. Thank you.
Kevin Ingram, City Manager with the City of Lakeport. I'm trying to not take it personal that Supervisor Scott leaving is the second elected member here in the past couple of years to decide not to work with me anymore and would rather work with my wife over there at Lakeport Unified. But no, in all seriousness, I'm echoing Mayor Pro Tem Turner's comments. I thought I attended a lot of meetings to do, but trying to keep up with all of your things that I used as an excuse all the time. I got 4 kids. Tina's got 10. You've made it really hard. You've made it really hard for me to complain about those things. But no, in all seriousness, I want to thank you mainly for the seeds that you've laid over the past 5 years in your service. Establishing the Scotts Valley Advisory Committee. Your work directly here with the City of Lakeport in getting us the grant funding for the All Children Thrive initiative. Even though you're leaving, I just want you to know that those positive seeds that you've set over those past few, those are going to continue to grow. And I know you're not going too far away, and you'll continue to be a partner in those endeavors. And I appreciate your commitment to furthering the public debate, even when those conversations have been tough, like annexation. They've furthered us to take the next steps and continue to move the county and the community of Lakeport forward. And you have a lot to be proud of in that thing. And I'm going to appreciate that we still get to continue to work with you in a different capacity. But your presence here on this board will be missed. So thank you very much.
Anyone else in the chambers that would like to speak on this? And if not, I see Director Metcalf.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Todd Metcalf, Lake County Behavioral Health Services. Wow, Supervisor Scott, I just really want to thank you, not only for your support in my role, but especially your support and involvement in, as was mentioned, the Housing Continuum of Care, also your involvement and support in our Mental Health Advisory Board. And of course, all the other programs and services that we provide at Lake County Behavioral Services. I'm happy to hear your reminder about, we are working with people, we are serving people, and they're people, not widgets. I love that, and I appreciate that. And again, just want to thank you, Supervisor Scott, for your years of service and dedication to the community, the county. And I really look forward to working with you in your new role in the future. So thank you again, and you will be missed.
Thank you. Director Portney.
Hello, good morning, board. Jonathan Portney, Director of Health Services. Scott, I can't appreciate you enough and my onboarding process, welcoming me to the county, and also the transition. We've had several phone calls, and it's been nothing but a pleasure working with you and for you. I'm looking forward to the impact you're going to make as you transition into another aspect of the community. I couldn't imagine a better leader for the role. I look forward to seeing you and continuing to work with you in a different capacity. And as everyone said, I just want to echo absolute appreciation, and you will be missed in that seat. Thank you.
All right. So I will open up to public input and on Zoom, and I have Joanne Sacato, if you'd like to unmute.
Good morning, everyone. Joanne Sacato from Cobb Mountain. And I just want to express what an honor it's been to work with Supervisor Scott. on the Community Vision Forum Planning Committee, which, if you don't know, is exploring justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion in Lake County. And these efforts are so important for the continued healing and positive growth of all of our residents of Lake County. And Tina, you brought such a genuine commitment to the work, and I so appreciate that. It really showed with how we were able to move through to where we're at today. And in general, I just want to acknowledge the gift of your dedication, your heart-centeredness, your well-meaningness. You're so articulate and caring, and I am just so grateful for the years that we've had you on the Board of Supervisors. Thank you so much. And I have to say, I'm really relieved and excited to know that you're going to continue to bring your vision and skills and talents to our community through such an important way as you are with our youth. So thank you for your past and continued public service to Lake County families and especially to our children. Thank you, thank you.
All right. So I'll bring it back to the board and we'll close this item. And it's, oh, actually, yes, Sam's going to need us to get a photo prior to that, so. All right.
Let's do it right now.
The order is now.
I got this cardboard bag.
Everybody.
I didn't feel I had a choice either.
Yeah.
When Sam says come, you come.
Yeah.
Whoops. One more.
Let's go in order.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, with that, we will move on to our 6 point.
You know, I got
Yeah,
comment
I'm
on
sorry, okay, yeah. Well, it's the same item, so I figured, but either way, I think we, Supervisor Sabate and then Supervisor Simon.
Go ahead.
And Supervisor Pyska, if you have any.
So I know that I met you when I was working at the college, invited you to some of our activities that we were doing there. I already saw you as a very strong woman who was able to make change and impact in our community. Wanted the students to know who you were because I knew that you could make an impact on our, not just our youth, but our young adults as well. Got to start working with you. Appreciated the fact that you're not stuck in District 4. You've done a lot of work in my district. You've helped out with Hope Rising, that created Hope Center. You helped out with the Smart Start Bright Future, which is focused on the Lower Lake area all the way to Clear Lake Oaks, but mainly in the district I serve. And I appreciate you engaging not just in the community you serve, but in the county as a whole. Because your love and care for people is not just limited to an imaginary line. And so I only assume that the things that you will do with our youth in a capacity as a teacher is going to have possibly the same, if not greater impact because of the relationships that you will be building are going to be so much stronger than the relationships we can create right now. We don't see them on a daily basis. You will see them on a daily basis. And those relationships matter so much. So best of luck, and thank you for all your work that you've done.
Supervisor Simon?
Yeah. Tina, I just want to say, you know, it was an honor to serve with you on this board. We came in this thing together, did some, you know, unique things as far as going and meeting with all departments when it was set up and, you know, as we moved through. But for me, it's going to be totally different here on this board. That's all I can say. I consider you a friend. I saw all the hard work and dedication you did. And it's my honor to sit here by you and to come on. And it just, I am, as it was said earlier, very sad, but very happy for you getting out to do exactly what you want to do. As Bruno said, work with the youth, encourage young people to just do everything that they can, and you know, I know you're just going to continue being great. For myself, like I said, consider you a friend. Everything you've done here has always just been for the people, and that's excellent, because sometimes you don't get that all the way through. There is no hidden agenda with Tanya Scott. She is here to serve, and it is, like I said, it's my honor. So consider when I'm doing something wrong, we're not voting in the right way for the widgets.
I will let you know.
Give me a call and let me know. But, thank you. It's one of the biggest honors of my life to serve with you on this board. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you. And I'm not going to cry, but I feel like
I was doing really well until this vote.
I know that you warned me not to do this. In the very beginning when I first met you, you have always led with your heart, and you've been a tremendous example of how leaders lead with heart and care with everything that they do. And I feel incredibly honored to have had this opportunity with you. And those early warnings, I didn't understand. But when you lead with your heart, it takes a lot, and you have given so much, and we're so appreciative for everything that you've given. You've set the bar incredibly high. Caring for our most vulnerable is work that we're going to carry on, and we have very high heels to fill as we do that work. We're committed to doing that work. I'm committed to doing that work. I'm going to continue to reach out to you for help because I think that we're going to need your guidance, I think, for years to come because of what you've built. And we have to maintain it, and we have to build on it, and we have to carry it forward. So I appreciate everything that you've done. And I know the students are lucky and blessed to have you. And I don't know, maybe we could get some cookies every once in a while. I don't know. But thank you. And
samples.
And I do appreciate our friendship, and that will continue to. Thank you.
Tina, I know I said some things earlier, of course, but I will end with the same thing. I still offer my friendship. Anytime you want to call and tell me I'm voting wrong or whatever the case may be, I'll accept, and we'll discuss if I need help with some constituents in my district that you've helped me with before, thanks to Congressman Thompson. By all means. So I will be looking to you in some instances, and I am very happy that you will be helping with the youth, because that's where we can do the best work. And we understand why they make the comments they make. Rather than here, we have adults that make comments that make us very tough. And I'll just have to say you were solid through that regardless. You've handled yourself very well. All right. So with that, would Susan or Anita? No? Okay.
I'll speak to her, unless I'll defer.
I was just going to say, it's been an honor, Supervisor Scott. Thank you for all you've done.
And also, even though I've only been here a little over 3 years, it's been a pleasure working with you on all the different projects that we were running after, especially Hope Rising and other projects. So thank you very much.
All right. We will move on now to 6.6, which is a presentation of resolution by the Board of Trustees of the Lake County Law Library. And we are going to have some of the folks come up from there. We have Cassie, and I will stand there with them, I think, as well, since I'm on that board.
Should I go down there too?
Yeah.
I'm kind of short, so that's what happens when you break your back. I'm Cassie Forchek, Kelly Kubetsky. Kelly is the head law librarian and kind of sitting as a backup. But I remember you when I worked many years ago, before I had to leave for medical reasons. And I can't believe you've done all of these things and were still able to attend a board meeting in person in that little building across the street on 3rd and North Forbes. I had no idea what. And I can understand why you missed a couple of board meetings. So with that, I will read a proclamation by our present board of Trustees of the Lake County Law Library. And if anyone doesn't know, we're right across the street, so 9 to 4. Resolution by the Board of Trustees of the Lake County Law Library, whereas Supervisor Tina Scott has, since her appointment to the Board of Trustees on the 8th day of January 2019, executed with singular competence, dedication, and goodwill the duties as a trustee on the Lake County Law Library Board of Trustees. And whereas the board deeply appreciates Tina Scott's participation and contributions on behalf of the law library in furtherance of public access to justice. And now therefore be it resolved that we, the members of the Board of Trustees, appreciative of the valuable contributions by Supervisor Tina Scott to the operations of the Lake County Law Library, its patrons and staff, do hereby unanimously express our gratitude and earnest commendation for her devotion to the Lake County Law Library and to the citizens of the County of Lake, State of California. The foregoing resolution is adopted on the 19th day of May, 2022, at a meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Lake County Public Law Library. Signed by Mike Ewing, President, Honorable Shanda M. Harry, Vice President, Honorable Michael S. Lunas, Honorable J. David Markham, Eddie E.J. Crandall, current Chair, Lake County Board of Supervisors, and Dennis A. Fordham, Trustee, Secretary of the Board. I'll give that to Kelly to present to you. Bless you.
I feel like I'm photobombing.
So I will open it up to the public briefly. I'm not seeing anyone come up or on Zoom, so I'll bring back to the board and close this item. And we will now move on to our 6.7 Civic Spark Fellow Presentation, the Clear Lake Shoreline Inventory Project and Shoreline Stewardship Project Development for the Lake County Water Resources Department. With that, we have Marina Delagiani, Deputy Water Resources Director, and staff that would be presenting on this.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much, Board of Supervisors, for having us today. Marina Delagianis, Deputy Water Resources Director for the Lake County Water Resources Department. I'm excited to be joined by Emma Bellinger, our AmeriCorps Civic Spark presentation, who will be showcasing her work that she has been working on. She's been serving with the Lake County Water Resources Department for the past 11 months. She'll, of course, give a refresher of the Civic Spark program that has been very beneficial to our community, and again, the work that she has been doing with our department. So I'm going to go ahead and play IT for a second. I'm going to plug in her presentation, and then Emma does have hard copies of today's presentation. She's more than happy to pass out to the Board of Supervisors and available for anyone in the chamber. So go ahead.
You can come join us up here.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a little shadow, and Emma's going to sit up here and chat.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and plug this in. Emma, if you would like to.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sweet.
Awesome. Thank you, Deputy Director Delajanis, for that introduction, and thank you to the board for allowing me to be here today to present to you all.
1 second.
Oh,
So close. Yay. Does that work now? Are we?
Yeah, it's showing up on my Zoom.
Awesome. Okay.
Sweet. Amazing. So I'm Emma Bellinger. I am the Civic Spark Fellow that has been serving with the Lake County Water Resources Department for the past 11 months. And I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about the Shoreline Inventory Project and the Shoreline Stewardship Program that is in development now. Next slide, please. So just as a reminder, or for those of you who are not familiar with Civic Spark, there has been a long history of Civic Spark Fellows in this community doing great work. It is an AmeriCorps program that pairs fellows with local governments or nonprofits to help bolster their ability to address environmental or social equity challenges in the communities. There are fellows all across the great state of California working on issues in climate resiliency, transportation, affordable housing, and all other great projects. Of course, with the Lake County Water Resources Department, I've been focused mostly on water resource management. And I started this past September in 2021, and I'll be finishing up in just a couple weeks here in August. So this serves as just a little update on those projects that I've been working on through those 11 months of service. Next slide. You got it, thank you. While the department has a lot of great programs that are already very developed, doing great work in water quality monitoring, aquatic invasive species, and others, shoreline management is an area that they were interested in pursuing to have a more holistic lake management program. So while shorelines might not be the very first thing that you think of when you think of lake management, what's happening on the shoreline does greatly affect the lake as a whole and its ecological health. So when there are natural shorelines with lots of vegetation, there's a lot of great things that are also happening. One of those is vegetation provides a natural buffer system for the lake. When runoff is coming from the land, it might be tracking toxins or other pollutants that can go through the plants before it enters the water, and therefore helping increase the water quality. Also, of course, with native plants, there's more habitat available for fish and wildlife. In this county, of course, we care a lot about a healthy fishery in Clear Lake. And we also get increased aesthetics. We have more great views that this county is known for, and hopefully with the implementation of these projects, we can also provide some economic opportunities for the local communities, including partnering with local contractors in implementing natural shoreline projects around the lake, and also possibly providing economic resources for those interested community members in helping out provide a great natural shoreline for Clear Lake. Next slide, please. So the very first step of shoreline management is better understanding what exactly is happening on the shoreline. So the first step was implementing a process called Score the Shore. Some of you may remember a presentation similar to this by last year's Civic Spark Fellows, Liam Healy and Nicole D'Amato, who were responsible for really developing the Score the Shore process behind the scenes and providing the tools and resources that I would need to implement the project further. So this process delineates the entire shoreline of Clear Lake into easy 1,000-foot sections, which can be analyzed using a preset survey, asking questions about vegetation, structures, woody debris, and erosion, all things that make up a great healthy shoreline, and providing an overall score to give us an idea of the ecological health of those transects and regions. So as you can see on the map, there's 17 different regions all around the lake to help us navigate our project and also to help make decisions later on. There was 353 total transects. It was a little bit of a hefty task. So Liam and Nicole in the department were able to complete 25% of that in the year between 2020 and when I started. So I was responsible for the remaining transects. And if you would like to go to the next slide. I wanted to showcase the map of the overall scores of the complete entire inventory. So walking through the legend, you'll see a lot of green areas, which all correspond to high scores, meaning there's resiliency to erosion, there's a lot of habitat, there's not too many bad things happening there, and there's a lot of green areas, which is great. The average score is pretty high, around 66. But I also want to point out areas with red, orange, and yellow transects, which correlate to lower scores, and highlight areas where we can improve our management practices and maybe get some more natural shorelines in those regions. Next slide, please. And while I would love to go through all of the data with you, it is a pretty hefty data set, so I wanted to break it down and give an example of one way that we can look at this data and analyze it. So I wanted to highlight a different metric called developmental density that is completely separate from the average score. The equation is highlighted at the top of this slide here. So it takes the total numbers of houses and the total number of docks in one region and divides that by the number of transects per region to give an average number of structures per 1,000 foot in one region. So this table here goes through all of those different 17 regions, and I wanted to highlight kind of two different ends of the spectrum here. In North Lakeport, there's pretty high development. The developmental density is about 18, and the average score is okay, but not the best at 51. And then comparing that to Clear Lake State Park, that has almost no development, and has a really high score. So I think comparing these two regions, we can see that there's a great diversity of different shorelines around Clear Lake, and we also are by no means saying that we want there to be no development on Clear Lake. That is not our goal. Our only goal is to point out that areas that are developed have some room for improvement and opportunity to grow in their ability to be shoreline stewards. And that leads me to my next point, which is the second project I was working on, the Shoreline Stewardship Program Development. So with the department, we were really interested in providing resources to be able to engage the community and encourage natural shorelines and best management practices all around Clear Lake. The work that I did on this was a lot of research into what other shoreline stewardship programs around the country have done well, where their successes were, and to get some inspiration for how we can fit our unique needs of Lake County into a shoreline stewardship program here. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of lofty goals here and a lot of different things that we hope to accomplish. And I do want to iterate that this is just the brief introduction of this program that will be developed for many years later on. We are not quite in the process of implementing it yet. I just wanted to provide a brief introduction of what we hope to do in the future. So we have a big focus on natural shorelines, which include native plants like tules. Tules are a great resource, not only for the habitat they provide and those ecosystem services, but also as a cultural resource. So encouraging more tules around the lake, more planting of native trees and things like that. But also we have a big focus on wanting to enhance the sense of community and encourage everyone to be on the same page and working together to build a more resilient and healthy Clear Lake. And once again, we hope to provide economic incentives for participants, those stakeholders who are interested in pursuing a natural shoreline project on their property or helping out in other ways. Next slide, please. So again, a big part of this is education and outreach, and I wanted to provide some examples of different outreach materials that I have been working on as part of this project as well. So on the left, you can see an example of a poster that you might see in the Shoreline Stewardship Program. We can use it as a reference for lake bed managers, talking through different options with property owners on different things that they can be doing on their lake, on their property and shorelines, thinking about different ways they can incorporate natural shoreline ideas, and also just in general different activities and behaviors that they could be changing or altering slightly just to provide a better ecosystem on their shorelines. And on the right, there's a bit of a different outreach that we've been working on, which is an activities and coloring book aimed towards those younger budding stewards. And I was able to design and draw some coloring pages for those, all talking about the ecosystem of Clear Lake or Highland Springs Reservoir, another great aquatic resource in Lake County. So stay on the lookout for some of these in the near future. Next slide, please. And speaking of next steps, I wanted to highlight again that this program is in its early development stages. In the 2023-2024 service year, a new Civic Spark Fellow will be here to continue the development and implementation of this Shoreline Stewardship program. And between then and now, there will also be a Civic Spark Fellow working with the department in aquatic invasive species, outreach and engagement. And of course, there's a lot of overlap in all things lake bed management, so you might hear a bit about shorelines even before 2023. But yeah, in general, just be on the lookout for all of the great resources provided by the department and the Civic Spark Fellows that they are working with. And I have, I think, some time for questions now, but I have also provided my email here in case you think of something later. And if it's after I've already left in a couple weeks, also the contact information for the Water Resources Department is available as well.
Supervisor Pyska.
Thank you for this work, and thank you for this year of service. It's incredible. We love our Civic Sparks. It sounds like you're leaving, but I hope you had a great stay in Lake County. We love it even more when our Sparks stay. But I'm sure it was an incredible year for you and an incredible place to study. I love the drawing pages. So I would love to see those in the elementary schools. I used to look for curriculum just like that, and to have that localized is a fantastic resource. So I hope we can connect those with the elementary schools. And thank you so much for your service.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, that is the goal, to help get those out to the younger students and our outreach programs and all the different events that we do. We've already been able to provide them at a couple different outreach events, so before I leave, I hope to get a couple more pages in there, have it a little more developed, but yes, that is on the future, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, thank you so much for your year of service. We've benefited so much from our Civic Sparks Fellows. It's amazing to see them come here, usually a brand new place they've never come to, finding something that you're passionate about, and then making a project happen for us to move us forward and taking care of our environment. So really appreciate the work you've done here and the time you've spent. You mentioned something. I'm just wondering if there's been any further conversations. Economic incentives. I think it will take an economic incentive to get people to make the changes that we need. It's private property now, so it's very difficult to just demand that change unless it's brand new development. Were there any ideas or conversations of what those could look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is something that I and the department have been talking about a lot. And we've taken some inspiration from other programs who do have economic incentives. Specifically for Lake County, we are pursuing the idea of possibly giving some discounts on lake bed fees or something like that. Also trying to figure out if there's grants we can provide to help with the cost of implementation and other ideas. But yeah, we are still very much in the ideas process and are aware that economic incentives would be a great help for the program. So that is, yeah, definitely of interest.
I look forward to furthering that discussion in order to get our community members to want to take part in that. So I appreciate the program being put together. The other part was we were looking at the scores. We were looking at the colors of all the segments and whatnot.
Yes.
Have you ever kind of overlaid that map with the cyanobacteria, the amount of cyanobacteria that we find in the lake from the measures that have been taken? Do they kind of match up, that where it's green we see less cyanobacteria and where it's red we see more? Just to kind of use that as another incentive. Hey, you don't want to see what you've seen over the weekend. I don't know if you were looking at the lake this week, but it's not going to get any better as we keep going into the drought, but it was a large amount of algae that was accumulating over the weekend. And so I'm just wondering if you've kind of compared the two and to kind of showcase that, yes, if you have a good lake shore, you can reduce the type of algae buildup that we're seeing.
Yeah, that's a great question. That is not something I've specifically done, but is absolutely something you could do with the data. And I forgot to mention it during the presentation, but the full data set will be available on the Water Resources Department website along with the story map to kind of help explain the process. But yeah, I think thinking about shorelines and cyanobacteria is really useful. Obviously, cyanobacteria is a really nuanced issue that doesn't have one quick silver bullet to help fix it, but maybe shorelines can play a role in that. Having more natural shorelines can improve the water quality, hopefully reducing cyanobacteria. But yeah, I would also be really interested to see if there was like any overlap between the maps. That is definitely something I can do, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your stay here, and I'm sure that we will have another Civic Sparks Fellow. I have a feeling you're not going to let that happen. I have one.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Vice Chair Scott?
Just want to thank you for your service. I agree. I love the coloring pages, putting something in our youth's hands that's local that they can learn from. It brings meaning to them. And I would love to see if we could somehow get into our high schools with this information. So when they're learning in one of their science classes, it's local. We have so much knowledge and research that can be done right here. And just for it to bring meaning to our youth so they understand what they have right here. So just thank you again for your service.
Yeah, thank you so much. And hopefully some sort of youth program can be incorporated in the development of the stewardship program. I think that would be really lovely.
I had a question about the shoreline vegetation. I know that there's been a lot of, in my town halls, I have 3 of them, so there's been a lot of discussion about vegetation in general and whether it's, I don't know if it's invasive or not. Some of it may be, we got primrose, and I'm not sure what some of it is, like near our parks and stuff, but it's also in private properties as well. And so I know a lot of folks are asking what they can do in maintaining this, and they're concerned they might have to get a permit, or so there's a lot of questions about that, and what they can do to assist not only in private property but also in regards to the county maintained areas as well, because I have lots of pictures. I went out on a trip with some folks at the Keys where they have primrose everywhere, and so just wanted to look out for some of those type of things that I can give back to them to give them some incentive also to and even answer some of their questions so they can know what to do right first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely. Vegetation is tricky because some is invasive and some is native. So I know that the county has been working on a primrose removal project, and in tangent with that, also replacing the primrose areas with replanting of tules, which are a native, the reeds. You can kind of see them in the back of this picture here. They're green, kind of look like cattails, but a little different. And those are great, really useful for Clear Lake. Naturally, Clear Lake probably had mostly tules around the shoreline, so tules are of special interest to us when talking about vegetation on the shoreline, but also as part of the resources that I'll be leaving behind, there will be a native plant list, hopefully highlighting some other native plants that should be encouraged and maybe planted if we can get the infrastructure developed to get property owners plants that they can plant on their properties.
I'll reach out for more information on the assistance with folks that really want to help in the county maintained areas and things like that, and also with the lake being so shallow right now, they're seeing tires and things like that, so they don't know if they can go and get it, or there's just a lot of those questions. But I can reach out to Water Resources on that. I just figured it'd kind of speak to it since it's constantly been talked about. So with that, I'll see if there's any other comments from the public.
Good morning, Scott DeLeon, Public Works Water Resources Director. I just want to take a moment to thank Emma for the wonderful service this year. You all have done that and recognized her, and rightfully so. We have had the benefit of some wonderful Civic Spark Fellows, to include our own Deputy Director, Delajanis, who is a former Civic Spark Fellow. So wonderful work, great continuation of the work that was done before her, and she's really laid the groundwork for our next Civic Spark, and I know we'll be pursuing that. And again, thank you so much for not only the work, but a wonderful addition to our organization. Very pleasant, very wonderful to be around, and certainly very nice to have in the office for the last 11 months. So thank you very much, Emma, and good luck with everything in your future. I know you'll do well.
And we can't get her to stay, right? We tried.
I have tried almost everything, Supervisor Scott.
I have loved my time in Lake County. The only reason I'm leaving, or one of the biggest reasons, is I'm going to grad school next year, so on to the next adventure. But I've had a lovely time. I've learned so much from the department and all of the partners that they work with, and I'm so thankful to be a part of this community for my time here.
So you'll call her when she's finished.
Yeah, we have a timeline, don't worry. But I would also just like to thank Emma for the work that you've done. As Director De Leon said, she definitely helped lay the foundation. As she shared, you know, this is just the start of the great work to be done. So especially with the work that Liam and Nicole started and, you know, the strengthening of the foundation that Emma did. Thank you so much. I'm always going to highlight her coloring pages because those are a lot of fun. And definitely want to get that education outreach out there. So thank you, Emma. We're going to miss you. But when you're done, getting smarter and better, and even though you're already the smartest and betterest ever, come back to us.
Thank you.
So I'm not seeing any other public input, so I will bring it back to the board. And it looks like Supervisor Simon has his,
Yeah. You know, I just think one of the key, obviously, thank you for all the work that you're doing in laying, you know, the long-term path here, but it was talked about the education stuff. We talked about that so much, how to get it into the schools, and Jessica and Tina said that. I just think it's so important, because those next generations are the ones that are going to just transform, you know, what we're trying to do here. So, and the other thing, you know, I just want to say, you know, the willows, the cottonwood, and the tules are all part of our, you know, the original stewards of the land. There are tribal uses for all of those, you know, and if we can get back to those efforts, I think, you know, we can continue just to work hard diligently with the new science that's there, but the old traditional ways that to take care of the lake, that took care of us for thousands of years. So I appreciate that, and excited, like I said, the education stuff there with the kids. We've talked about it, the Blue Ribbon Committee, all the other things. How do we get the kids engaged to understand what they have right in their backyard, you know, the science and what we're talking about. So I think it's really neat, and I know you guys will have another Civic Spark coming in that'll hopefully grow on that. So appreciate the work that's done.
Thank you so much. And yeah, we are also really excited to work with tribal partners in this program, and we hope that it's a really collaborative experience with all the stakeholders who care and love Clear Lake as much as we all do. And yeah, definitely, again, getting that into the schools and reaching younger populations, that is definitely something we're all looking forward to.
any other comments? Supervisor Sabati.
I have a question for Deputy Director Delagianis. Have you ever done a presentation for our other departments on how it is that you are consistently accessing Civic Sparks Fellows? Just because I think it's a benefit. I don't want to take away if we're limited from your department, but just I think it's been such a huge asset for us to bring in new, fresh eyes into the county, people who fall in love with the county, sometimes want to stay, but it's just, I think the experience is great for them, but on the other side, we benefit so much. So just kind of curious if that's a possibility, because I would love to see, no offense, taking advantage of the Civic Sparks program on a greater scale, if that's possible.
Yeah, and I am more than happy to help facilitate that. I can definitely bring an item to the board specifically of the Civic Spark program, have some folks from Civic Well, formerly known as the Local Government Commission, who are tasked with leading this program. I know I have had plenty of conversation from a lot of different folks around the county, including special districts, clerks. Hidden Valley Lake, as we know, they were the first ones to have Civic Spark Fellows. Terra now has Civic Spark Fellows this year, and it's definitely growing, and it has been a constant assistance for our department. So I'm more than happy to bring something before the board and help facilitate the resources that Civic Well does in terms of having potential project partners, webinars. They have a lot of resources on the website. If you just Google Civic Spark in itself, the AmeriCorps program website will pop up, but I am more than happy to bring an item to the board in the near future, especially since the new Civic Spark year is ramping up. That's something that folks, especially as they're starting their fiscal planning and whatnot for the next fiscal year, they can start looking into. So I can bring a presentation to the board with Civic Well. I'm always happy to hype up Civic Spark.
I'd be very interested in that.
So now the AmeriCorps has the climate positions, and that's really one that we like to add to. So I know it's off topic, I'll just stop there, but that's something that we're looking at with our new position. We need help with that.
Any other comments? Well, thank you again for your presentation. Thank you again for all the work you've done. It's been wonderful having you. And thank you for the presentation once again.
Thank you so much.
Can we take a break?
What's that?
Can we take a break?
Yes, we'll take a quick 5-minute break. Been requested by my colleague here, so we'll take a 5-minute break, 11:20. All right. We are on, we'll move on. Welcome back from the break. We'll move on to our 6.8, discussion and consideration of A, an interim urgency ordinance implementing a temporary moratorium on the issuance of early activation permits for the commercial cannabis. And B, a resolution of intention of the Lake County Board of Supervisors to initiate an amendment to the zoning ordinance relating to early activation. And with that, I will give the floor to our County Counsel, Anita Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you giving me a few minutes to discuss this today. As you had requested, I did put together a new interim ordinance under 65858 subdivision F. And as I've explained in the memo I drafted to your board, that does allow for the adoption of another interim ordinance, but it must be on as to an event, an occurrence, or a set of circumstances different from the event or circumstances that gave rise to the previous interim ordinance. And here, the circumstance I identified is your board's creation of the task force to review the cannabis ordinance as a whole. And the public health, safety, and welfare concern here is that you not take action with that pending until this piece of the cannabis ordinance can be considered and reviewed by the task force. So that is why the interim urgency ordinance is drafted as it is, because that is a change of circumstance that I do believe falls within the parameters of 65858 sub F. The additional information, the sub B, is a resolution of intention with the ordinance that had been drafted by Community Development, which would then go to the Planning Commission for their review before taking action on the ordinance, which I believe is necessary here. I've also had the opportunity to speak to Deputy Director Turner, and she's already organizing things. If your board is amenable to this, I think she's going to give you a very efficient process for moving all of this forward.
All right. Any questions? Would we like to hear from Deputy Director Turner?
Absolutely.
All right.
Hello, Board. Deputy Director Turner. I fully support County Council Grant's recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. We have notified the Cannabis Task Force that their primary topic before we start talking about all the rest of cannabis policy will be to address making recommendations regarding early activation. That first meeting is set for August 1st. Then the following week on that Thursday, we will add that item to the Planning Commission's agenda on that date, so that within the 35 days that are mentioned in the ordinance, we will be able to turn around a memorandum to the board, giving you recommendations of both the task force and the Planning Commission for any amendments to early activation permits.
All right. Any questions? Supervisor Simon.
No, thank you for that report, but I also want to say welcome back to county service. So thank you, Tina.
I am super happy to be here.
So just wanted to say that, so thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. With that, Ms. Grant, did you have anything else to add? Or?
No, sir. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. As I said, the recommendations that are being made here are to comport with state law and to ensure that all entities that either should or must be consulted, that all of those bases will be tagged, as it were, and your board will have a clean field as you proceed.
All right. So as I'm not seeing any questions from the board as of now, I'll go ahead and open it up to the public briefly. I'm not seeing anyone in the chambers, and then I'll look on Zoom. I don't see anybody on Zoom, so I will bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chair, I would say that if you wish to adopt the ordinance, it does require a 4/5 vote of your board. The resolution, a simple majority.
Okay. All right. Actually, it looks like we have two hands that popped up right after I closed it, so I'll go ahead and open up the public input. So Margot, if you can state your name for the record, and we'll start your 3 minutes.
Certainly, thank you. board members. I want to offer my thanks and congratulations to Supervisor Tina Scott. I reside in her district, and I welcome her reminder to us all that the decisions made by the board affect people. And I am concerned about the rescinding of some of the elements of the zoning code, which may remove controls over water regulation. And as we all know, we're in a terrible mega drought. I and my family rely on well water. My family and I are surrounded by commercial cannabis cultivation, and we were very, very concerned about the use and abuse of water, surface water and well water in our area. And I'm sorry I haven't had enough time to really go into the zoning particulars that are in question. I just learned of this topic going on the agenda today, but I have had conversations with Director Scott De Leon about this topic in general. I do support the board's efforts to curtail or eliminate completely early activation permits. I think it's been a horrible process for staff, county staff, and for residents in the county. And I urge you, please, please consider, I don't know the particulars. I was alarmed to see that CEQA would be removed, or secret considerations would be removed. And I urge you, consider how reliant we are on water, especially residents who are relying on well water. And cannabis is such an intensive water crop. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Sabatier, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I think that there was some confusion in the fact that in the interim urgency ordinance, it says that this urgency ordinance is exempt from CEQA. That does not mean that we are looking to exempt the process for cannabis permitting from CEQA. It's just that urgency ordinance that continues the moratorium itself that is covered by a CEQA exemption. The process still requires you, the state requires you, so we can't change that, to have a CEQA analysis of every permit. So it sounded to me like you were in favor of the things that we are doing, and just wanted to clarify the CEQA thing.
Yes, if I may add, your board takes CEQA so seriously that each ordinance and even resolutions that you enact or adopt, you always give CEQA consideration to it. And here, as a regulatory act, the ordinance itself is exempt for the reasons stated in the ordinance.
All right. Sarah Bodner, if you can unmute and state your name for the record, and we'll start your 3 minutes.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, board and staff, for considering this. My name is Sarah Bodner, and I'm the policy director for the Lake County Cannabis Alliance. And the Alliance wants to express support for cleaning up early activation. You know, everybody knows that it's been confusing, differently implemented at times, and has caused some whiplash for applicants. So I think clarity is really essential here. And we hope that going forward, you know, the steps that are being taken can offer clarity for a permitting pathway that doesn't have so many hiccups and differing interpretations and differing timelines. So, you know, we're hopeful about the new ordinance and the task force that is being created, but none of that is going to be immediate. So we just wanted to encourage the board, as you clarify early activation and embark on this process, that you also consider some of the structural elements that have been challenging for applicants moving through the permitting process, two of them being staffing. You know, we're really appreciative of having a cannabis program manager now who is stewarding all applications, but he's basically serving as air traffic control for hundreds of applicants, and it's a lot. And I don't think any person alone, no matter how committed, can really succeed in that role. So we hope as you're looking at this program and looking at cleaning up early activation, you also look at what CDD really needs to succeed. And the other structural element is that we really strive to have some transparency in tracking permit applications. And this is something that this board had discussed, but we have not yet seen it, where there could be some kind of interface where an applicant could go and see exactly where their permit process. We've had the experience of many pieces of submitted information being lost in the pipeline, and these things could really help us clean up the experience as well and help deliver more efficient permitting. Thank you for taking these comments and into the cannabis program.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands up in Zoom or in the chambers, so I'll bring it back to the board for further discussion and action. Supervisor Sabatier.
Just on the side, appreciate everything that was put together for here and looking forward to this moving forward. But I do feel that we've kind of, because early activation is its own part of the code. It's not solely connected to cannabis. And I think that we may have tainted the idea of early activation with some of the activities that we allowed under early activation. It would be nice at one point if we can get a conversation about what early activation is, what can be early activated, and what cannot, because in my opinion, where we made the mistake is where something requires a CEQA document to be finalized in order to be approved. Early activation probably was not the right process to move forward through, as that skipped parts of that, and so we allowed the tampering and changes to an environment without the full understanding of what the environmental impacts would be. But it's still a code that exists, and so to better understand it, I think it would be nice if we can have that level of conversation.
Ms. Grant.
And certainly that's one of the reasons to put this before the Planning Commission for its review, because it can certainly consider that as part of its analysis and recommendations. So the intent here is to ensure that this commentary and the recommendations are all available to your board, so your decision making is as comprehensive as possible.
All right. I think presented as the resolution, and so let's see here.
Mr. Chair, as to the urgency ordinance, if your board wishes to take that up, it would be a motion to waive reading of the ordinance and to have it read in title only, and then a motion to adopt the ordinance.
All right. So,
So moved. For the first one.
Yeah.
for A, okay.
Adopting the ordinance will come next.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
No, that was for the interim urgency ordinance.
To waive in title only, right?
Yes.
And read in title only.
An interim urgency ordinance implementing a temporary moratorium on the issuance of early activation permits for cannabis cultivation.
Thank you very much. And then I move to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
So we just offer it? We just offer it, right?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
The ordinance
the
or the resolution?
The ordinance has been
No,
offered.
no, no, no,
Oh,
no.
wait, the ordinance?
We're doing the ordinance. Do I just,
Actually, I misspoke, my apologies.
so motion, okay, I offer the ordinance.
The ordinance has been offered.
Supervisor Simon?
Aye.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Scott?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, and the ordinance has been passed.
And Mr. Chair, I offer the resolution of intention.
Resolution has been offered.
It's working. Okay, Supervisor Simon?
Aye.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Scott?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will close that item, and it looks like we have,
7.5.
right. I'm just getting, okay. So we will go on to our non-timed items, which is, the only one left is 7.5, consideration of review of planning services contract between the County of Lake and Lakeco. With that, we have the planning department present, and it looks like Deputy Director Turner and Andrew Amelong are here, along with Byron Turner.
Hello, thank you, Deputy Director Turner. Just introducing.
Do you want to sit up here?
Oh, thank you. That'd be
You all can as well. I don't, yeah.
Thank you. As Chair Crandall noted, we do have our Cannabis Program Manager present, as well as Byron Turner, a former county planner who now helps us through LACO with our cannabis contracts. I will turn this over to them for the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, let's see, is this mic on?
Yes.
All right, so to review LACO's performance to date, as of July 18th, on a weekly update that we received from LACO, our consultants have had 6 projects that have been approved at the Planning Commission. 37 project review status memos have been submitted. 10 projects have review underway. 5 projects are currently at the Planning Commission stage. 3 of those projects are tentatively scheduled for July 28th. Actually, they are scheduled, with 1 pending continuance. And 2 of those projects are, well, actually, this has changed. 1 of those projects is now scheduled for the August 11th Planning Commission. The other one still needs to work out some issues. Moving on, 1 project has been appealed to the Board of Supervisors, and that is pending scheduling. And 4 projects have been continued to a later PC date.
All right. Supervisor Sabatier?
I forgot to ask for this clarification in my emails yesterday, but in the memo it says 5 projects, and then it's all tabbed over, but it doesn't add up to 5.
Yes.
Is it 5 projects and those things below, or is the 5 involved in the things below?
The 3 projects on the first tab, 3 projects that were tentatively scheduled for July 28th, they are now scheduled. And the 2 projects that were tentatively scheduled for August 11th comprise those 5 projects.
Gotcha. Okay. And so there's 6, 37, so that's 43, 10, 53, plus the 10 below. So 63 total projects that they're involved in since the beginning.
Yes, and there's 70 over, so there's 7 more that have been sent to them that are awaiting their review to begin. And since then, we have had 10 more projects move into the CEQA review phase, which is the point at which we send them to LACO. So to clarify how the cannabis program is structured currently, we have 4 stages of review. The first stage, when we receive an application, we review it for completeness to make sure all the application items have been received. If they have not been received, we send out an incomplete letter, and we await to receive those documents, such as hydrology reports or background checks, et cetera. Once the projects are complete, then they move into what we call the agency and tribal notification review period, and that's when we send out our RFRs, or request for reviews, to local and state agencies, as well as our AB 52 notifications to our local tribes. Once we receive comments, that's generally a 30-day period with 2 weeks for the agencies and 30 days for AB 52, and we receive all of those comments. We take those comments into consideration, and this is at the staff level at CDD between myself, the program manager, our assistant planner, Mary Claybon, and our technician, Jamie Henry. Once we receive those comments and we review them to determine the appropriate CEQA review process, whether they qualify for mitigated negative declaration, or should it be categorically exempt in some cases, At that point, that's when we are sending the projects over to LACO to begin, basically the crux of the review period, stage 3, which is CEQA review, and drafting initial studies, reviewing submitted initial studies, and basically commenting on those and requesting more information, because quite often we don't quite have enough information to complete the initial studies. Once the initial studies have been completed and we have all of the attachments and we feel comfortable with the determination based on LACO's recommendations and our own internal review, that's when we move forward to publish those initial studies at the State Clearinghouse. That's a 30-day review process. We receive more comments from the state, from the general public, from organizations, and we take all of those comments in, and that's when it moves into the final stage of review, stage 4, which is preparation of the staff report and scheduling a planning commission hearing date.
All right.
Which also, that's where LACO is filling in to do the heavy lifting in stage 3 and stage 4, the CEQA review and initial studies, and the staff reports, and presenting the projects at Planning Commission.
All right. Byron, did you have anything to add? Or?
Sure. I just wanted to say that, we are here to serve the needs of CDD, as mentioned by the speaker on the last item. It took some time to get to this. I think we have a smooth process now. It took some time to get to this. The cannabis program was kind of floating a little free there for a while, and now we're there able to offer our assistance, and as well as assisting in tracking as well. I know this is an issue, to be available to the public for their questions as well, if the county wishes us to be that point of contact. LACO has recently opened up an office downtown as well, so we are available to serve our client, the county, and here to help.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Sabatier?
So in the emails that I had back and forth yesterday, I know on our memo it says since January 1st, 2022. I had known that we've been with LACO much earlier than that. And in my email response, I asked, are the numbers being provided from our original relationship or since January? And the response I got was since the beginning. And so I do have to say I'm happy with some of the changes, and I'm hoping that those changes give me the results I'm looking for, but 6 projects approved since August 9th of 2021 is a little disappointing when we've spent about $240,000 so far, and granted there's other work being done. So I would like to see another review coming up sooner than later, not waiting another full year, but I want to make sure that the new changes are resulting in what we're looking for, because almost exactly a year's worth of work and funding to have 6 projects only being approved, and whether they're disapproved or approved, to me that's up to the Planning Commission and up to us if it's appealed, but to have only 6 projects go through only the CEQA process and the final process, which I think the final process is kind of a new thing that we're doing. I don't think I've ever seen LACO come before the Planning Commission until recently. But I'm disappointed in the 6 projects being approved for that kind of time period, when that is the only thing that we're asking LACO to do for us, is to go through these projects. So I see that there's potential change, and I'd like to be not pessimistic about the future, and so I hope that these changes will make the numbers look better, and so I'm hoping that we can come back, I don't know, maybe 6 months from now towards the end of the year and kind of review again where we are, because I want to see that number be a whole lot different than 6, because personally that's not good enough for me.
Sure, I understand. And from my understanding, I wasn't involved in LACO's initial period as a consultant, but I think it was limited to 8-week period in which we sent them approximately 19 projects, just about 20, and they started work on those projects. And then that temporary contract, which I believe was for $25,000, kind of ran its course, and it was put on hold until later that year in December, when they could approve the actual contract. So that's when we really got started with LACO, was in January. Also at the time, Kim Hunter, the former director of Trinity County, who's now a principal planner in Butte County, She was our primary consultant, who Byron is now filling that role. Part of some of the, I guess, delays was Kim getting to know Lake County. And, while she had a lot of experience in cannabis in Northern California, she was still learning that Lake County is unique and it approaches things uniquely. And so that was part of the delay. Another part of the delay was just so many projects. We were really excited to get rolling, get these projects out. Let's get them to Planning Commission for, either approval or denial. However, it seems like so many projects, each one's unique, each one has its own unique conditions, and more information is needed for each one. So coordinating that effort of review and finding that information, especially tracking it down from previous planners and just the high turnover of staff that we've had. The 40 that have been reviewed, the 37 project review status memos that were submitted, we have those at CDD. We've reviewed around 20 of them and sent them out on letterheads. But again, we're reluctant to send them directly to, because a lot of times it's asking applicants for items that they've previously submitted that either got lost in previous planners' inboxes, or with the file share that we have after 2 weeks, if it's not received and placed in the appropriate file, then that link expires. So these are some of the issues. A lot of those are still kind of cleaning up the cannabis program or the situations that we inherited, essentially. But I think it is my understanding, maybe Byron can speak to this further, that LACO for other counties, lots of times in the first year, they only get, 8, 9, 10 projects approved, but they work out their systems, and the following year they get, many more than that, I guess, up to 80 or 90 in some cases. So Byron may be able to speak to that experience with.
Sure, every county is different. Everyone has different rules and different scenarios. But for example, another county that we do have cannabis services for, the first 6 months, I think it was 6 or 8 projects. The following year was around 90. So that's an example of the exponential growth that will happen. I anticipate that to happen here as well.
And I support using a contractor to help us out with the overwhelming amount of applications that we have. I just want to make sure that we're getting our money's worth, and I have high expectations that momentum will change, but that's why I'm asking if we could do another 6-month review to make sure that change is occurring.
Our department would be happy to bring back a review at any time that the board deems appropriate.
Thank you for that. Any other comments?
I just want to make a comment in support of that coming back. Maybe pre-planting season and then post-planting season. I think that would be a good way to look at it coming out. So by the end of this year, definitely understanding where we are, and streamlining the process and getting it set down is one of the main goals that we have. So appreciate, as the Supervisor said, some of the changes being made, but want to hear that report at the end of this grow season. Be very important how we move forward.
All right. I'm agreeable to that as well. So thank you for offering that and being available in case the board decides it. I'll open it up to public input if there's any. I don't see any in the chamber, so I'll look online for Zoom. And I'll wait an extra second because last time I closed it and
There they go.
So we have Jennifer Smith. If you can unmute, state your name for the record, and we'll start your 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Johnson.
Can you state that again? I think it broke up a little bit.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Jennifer Smith.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Hi. I just wanted to chime in on this. Obviously, a year and 6 projects is concerning from the cannabis industry standpoint, and I appreciate that same concern is being expressed. As we move forward, I'm hoping that we can see more transparency on the process and more projects.
Okay. I think she dropped off.
Yeah, she did.
All right. So I'll, if there's anyone else, and I see a hand up, we have Aaron McCarrick. If you can unmute and state your name for the record. 3 minutes will start then.
Hi there. Hello, Erin McCarrick, Clear Lake. Maybe what Jen was trying to say is also Vice President of the Lake County Cannabis Alliance. Thanks for the continued work on this. We did have there was the presentation of Lake Co. a few months back with a kind of a all over the place spreadsheet. I know the work from CDD has been super helpful for getting everything streamlined in the cannabis department there, and also just in general with kind of organization building there. But if there was a possibility of having the transparency, and maybe it goes through the Cannabis Ad Hoc Committee, where people are kind of updated with that list of the queue, basically, of what projects are up, that would be super helpful for transparency. And additionally, if there was any sort of, because I don't know how long the grant goes for, the 2.1, and there may be other money out there too. If there's maybe there's a 3-month timeline, a year, 6-month timeline, a year timeline, and maybe like a couple-year timeline to say how are we going to attack all of these projects over a longer period of time. I thought I had one more comment, but it is escaping my memory right now. Yeah, and also just, I don't know if there's anything can be done with the Planning Commission to hopefully avoid any of these continuances. I know some of them were due to some of the planners, summer absences, and then also maybe questions that the planners may have had ahead of time that could be addressed so that the projects don't get as continued. Again, not speaking for Jen, but I know that those were some of the things that have been talked about. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Sarah Bodner. If you'd like to unmute, say your name for the record, and your 3 minutes will start then.
Hello again, Sarah Bodner, Policy Director for LCCA. And on behalf of Jen and the organization, what we'd like to request is that we have these conversations more frequently. And we would encourage the board to ask for a 3-month review, and then a 6-month review, and then a 9-month review, and a 12-month review. And if we check in every 3 months, we think that we can have a lot more accountability and a bit better information sharing between the department and LACO and the staff and the community. So we'd like to suggest that you come back the next time in 3 months, and that we also ask that you give some sort of direction around transparent tracking of permits. In order to know where your permit is at, you have to make several calls and send several emails. And if we could have some kind of interface, like had been discussed when almost a year ago when they put that spreadsheet up on the screen, if we could have something like that that could be accessible, it could save a lot of people a lot of time, and your staff and your consultant as well. So those are our 2 requests today, which Jen asked me to communicate. Thanks.
Thank you. Supervisor Sabatier.
I know that the department is working hard on getting, forgot the name of the software all of a sudden. Excella to function for them, and there is a module in there, whether we currently have that module or not, that is a public interface where that transparency could be created. So I think at this moment in time, I need to remain patient with the process of inserting Excella in our everyday work, so that then those things can be utilized. And if we need to get that extra module, then that's something that we can discuss later on. But I know that that is something that is moving forward, and I anticipate will help out with that. And it also sounds, with the fact that LACO now has the option of having a direct contact, which was discussed earlier, that opens up some levels of transparency. But I definitely would look forward to the task force also helping out with that. I think it should be a department-wide transparency, not just a cannabis transparency.
Yes, and to respond to that, we have been keeping internal records for the cannabis program and a number of spreadsheets that track it through those 4 stages. All the information is ready to go and to basically be updated in Excella once Excella is ready for planning. So.
All right, that'll be great. Any other comments from the board?
I just have what's the timeline for that, do you think?
I'm not sure. I think that's Mary Darby question.
Okay,
so,
that's
yeah.
fair. Thanks.
Additionally, our cannabis program manager has created a prioritization list, which does show the ongoing permit processing of the projects, and so he's begun to use some outreach elements.
Yes, it serves two purposes, and we've tried to share it as much as we can and update it as frequently. Initially, we tried to update it after each Planning Commission hearing, but then that kind of turned into about a once-a-month update. Again, I know it's not exactly what's being requested. I would like to see an online portal, and we could convert this into some sort of online portal. But the prioritization serves two purposes. One, to let people know where they are in the queue, similar to like going to the DMV. You want to know where you are in line, so you know what to expect. Also, it helps us make sure that we are working in a fair manner to make sure first comes, first served gets served. Sometimes we have more vocal applicants who try to, they come in and they try to work their way to the front of the line, and I try to prevent that from happening. There were that first set of projects that went to LACO first. Those projects were not necessarily prioritized, so they did get a bit of a head start. But moving forward, so long as you're in the CEQA stage, we want to make sure that we're working on the oldest projects first, up to a point where we can no longer work on them, we need more information, then we move on to the next. So everyone is treated fairly in the process. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, any other questions or comments?
And I'll just say, since it was mentioned 3 months, 6 months, at this moment in time, I think that the 6 months is a good time frame for possibly a lull to be able to organize and get all this data together. The more we ask for these types of reports, the more we're actually taking away from the job we're requesting them to do. So I'm still in favor of continuing with the 6 months rather than anything less.
All right. And I think from there, I think we have, that's the only recommendation we have is a 6-month report. So I think that's all we have for that.
So we'll be back in January with our Lakeland, which actually is also in between our growing seasons. So that's great.
All right.
So great. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Director Turner and Mr. Turner and Mr. Amelong for the report.
Thank you.
Turner Day.
All right.
All right.
Calendars.
Calendars, you sure?
I want to hear Tina's calendar.
Yes. You want? All right, so we'll go to calendars. And we will start with, Vice Chair Scott.
Okay. Tomorrow, I will be attending the Blue Zones Walk, the MOHAD, here in Lakeport. Join us, 6 p.m. We meet at the gazebo. It's a 30-minute walk. It's not just about getting exercise, but it's about joining community and having conversations. And then 7 p.m., Lakeport Unified School District will be having a safety meeting, knowing that safety of our students isn't just the school district, it's the community and the parents, all being aware of what's going on. So that's at 7 o'clock for parents to show up. And then that is it.
Over and out, right?
Over and out.
So Supervisor Simon, we'll go with
Yeah,
that.
it looks like tomorrow there's the Lake County Tuckman GS Battle. That's been moved to Wednesday. I have that 8 a.m. And then in the afternoon, I have another grant meeting with NCO, talk about climate grant application potential. On Friday, I have a meeting in the morning with CAO Parker. Those Fridays work well. The agendas are getting out now, so it has time to do that. We have time over the weekend, so I appreciate that. And good job, Chair and Admin, thank you, and Vice Chair. The weekly planning meeting on Friday, and also the staff tree meetings. On Monday, I do have I don't have much. I got a tennis appointment I got to take care of in Santa Rosa, and then back here on Tuesday. Would just like to once again, and it seems like a weekly thing, but really thank all of our local fire departments, fire districts, just the pre-positioning, the full assets that are brought to bear on all of our, fires that have been happening. We had something in the city, basically in the city of Clear Lake. We had, last night, I think we also had something at Highland Springs, that was going up in the middle of the evening. And as dry as the conditions are and what we're seeing happening, I just want to, thank them for all the work. I do know that, they're out there, they're prepared, and, I think moving forward, Seems like the staffing is there that they need, but just want to thank them because, you know, it is happening. I also want to thank, too, just our community members. I know we've had a few fires that have broken out throughout the county, and, you know, whether they have equipment that was given out by our fire protection districts or they have their own now, the McLeods, whatever, you know, the water, you know, I think the water packs that are given out, the fire, rechargeable fire extinguishers. Just thank everybody in the community for being diligent and vigilant when they see something happening and getting those things reported. So just want to say that, you know, I hope that's all we're doing is thanking them at this point, you know, knock on wood that we get through this year with the dryness and the water. So I appreciate all of those efforts. And obviously, too, communications, too, from the sheriff, you know, on incidents. And I hope folks like that, the YouTube stuff, understanding what's going on, you know, and getting that message out there. So I wanted to say that, and that's what I have. Thank you.
Supervisor Simon. Supervisor Pyska?
I want to echo that deep appreciation for our firefighting professionals and just how much we respect them and respect their professionalism and their guidance during this time. And you know, I would never question that. So I don't think I've got anything to report. Checking for last week. Okay, so today it looks like I am going to be able to make a couple things in the evening. There is the Cobb Farmers Market, but there's also the Blue Zone Celebration, Sunrise Rotary at the Saw Shop this evening from 5:30 to 7:30. I think I'll be able to make that. Yeah, tomorrow morning we have our rescheduled meeting with Tuckman Geospatial. Then I've got the Ag Advisory Committee. Then I've got the Climate Grant Application meeting. In the evening is the planning week. I think they're moving to weekly for the Blackberry Cobbler Festival. It's possible I could make it to that. I'm not sure. Thursday, I am meeting with the new general manager of Boutique, so I'm going to go out and spend some time there. And then in the evening is the Kelseyville Side Street Market, which is last Thursday of the month, and it's just a delightful little market. If anyone's in town, it's a great place to stop by and pick up some goodies and dinner. Friday morning is our weekly planning meeting for home hardening, and then we have our staff tree meeting. And then Monday, I will keep the meeting with Susan, but I will not be here Tuesday. And then that following week, I've got lots of meetings too.
Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, just some quick feedback on some of the meetings I went to last week. I know in LAFCO we signed our last resolution for the annexation of Lakeport. There will be the vote election on this November's general election. That will be one of those options for those that live in the area that they'll find on their ballot. Looking forward to see how that concludes. Did have an IFT meeting for interfacility transfers. We're still doing better and still in a positive place at this moment in time. Did have some updates real quick. I don't know if I mentioned it last time. I think I did. That we have our primary signing doctor for our medication on our ambulance system is retiring soon. We all met together between fire districts, our LEMSA, and our hospitals, decided on what steps we needed to take. There was some physicians from both hospitals that had some interest but wanted more information, so we went ahead and created, let me be specific, Chief Cepeda went ahead and redrafted the job description and is passing that around, and hopefully within the next I think we're meeting in the first week of August to review who is still interested so that we can make sure that there's continuity in getting those things signed off. It's important to have our controlled substances that are absolutely necessary and life-saving in an ambulance situation in order to bring people to the hospital and have that care already provided to them rather than waiting till they arrive at the hospital. So I think that we will find a proper solution to that, and that we will not see any gaps in any of those types of services. Next week for me is really light. Last week of the month, I am meeting with Fire Protection District. I'm hoping to meet with a group from the Fire District as well to discuss an ordinance that I'll be bringing to you here at the board soon. Solid Waste Task Force is on Thursday, starting that off early with Judge's Breakfast. And I know that Councilmember Russ Kramer joined a Wednesday meeting last week for the fire-wise communities. He's already started discussions looking for memberships, as have I, and hopefully this week will, since I have a lot of time on my hands, be able to meet and start putting pieces together so that we can take some of the long trek that people have already taken to get to the place where we can start asking for grants and being a little bit more independent in the south area of obtaining grants and taking care of the fire resiliency. As mentioned by Supervisor Simon, the area of Clear Lake, I don't know if there's a week that's gone by that we haven't had a fire in that area. And unfortunately, when you look at the amount of work that's been done to try and limit and mitigate those potential fires, fire still finds a way to be in the city of Clear Lake. So I think the work that the fire-wise community will be doing in the near future, once all that is completed, is going to be really important to make that change that we're looking for over there. A little scary at times. That one last weekend could have been horrible, but very thankful for how quick we jump on these things, because they were already evacuating the village in Highlands Harbor pretty quickly. Other than that, I think that's all I have. Coming back on Monday and preparing for my meeting. That's it.
All right. So I'll report out on a meeting I had with the Flock group that helps us with, or it was the agency that we purchased the license plate reader cameras from. They gave me an overview on how to, the best practices to work with it and whatnot. So I know that some of the issues were with placement and I'm pretty sure that there's at least 2 or 3 that may need to be replaced in different areas, but they're willing to work with us on that. I think the issue was that in some areas it needs direct sunlight and it needs wireless capability, so that will assist in many ways. It's also, I'm gonna meet with code enforcement, law enforcement, and a couple of the groups that are really active on the ground to ensure that those are the proper placements of some of these cameras. But they're all in place now, all stored. One of the greatest things that I asked and I was worried about was once they're in place, which was basically like last week, that starts from that point for the contract. So they said we don't want to be the person that starts the contract 6 months ahead of time and choose away at it. So that was good news to hear. So we'll be looking at some of these other areas and getting these things. Getting the information so that way we can help reduce crime and dumping and everything else that comes along with it. The sheriff shared in a meeting last week at the North Shore Business Association how it's helped with a stolen car, and so it's able to track the different ventures that the car takes in different areas. And with District 3 having all of the entry and exit points covered, now we have more coverage. So just wanted to give some good news on that. And so with that, today I have a meeting with a constituent in Nice. Tomorrow, agenda review. Then the Golden State Natural Resources, not. And 6 p.m. is at the NAACP meeting. On Thursday, Upper Lake 6330 meeting has to do with water. 10 a.m. It's a water source. They're looking at a project in that area for some of the citizens. 10 a.m. is a solid waste task force meeting. Following that at 12 is law library, and then I'll be meeting with a constituent in Upper Lake. Friday, one of the citizens that came in today, I'll be meeting with her on Friday. And then Monday, 8:45 CAO meeting, and then Middle Creek Restoration at 10:30. And then back here on Tuesday. That's, I think that concludes, unless anyone missed anything and wants to add. Not seeing that. So I'm going to ask how we want to move forward with this. Do we want to go right into closed session or take a lunch and come back for closed session?
If it factors into your board's decision, I can tell you cumulatively it should last under an hour.
So,
Yeah, let's do it.
all right, it looks like we will power through it. So closed session items, 8.1, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 549.56.9D1, Citizens for Environmental Protection and Responsibility Planning et al. Versus County of Lake et al. 8.2, conference with legal counsel pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2E3, claim of Hayes. 8.3, conference with legal counsel pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.91, City of Clear Lake versus County of Lake et al. And 8.4, conference with legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2E5, one potential case. With that, we will go into closed session, and yeah, thank you for tuning in with us.